Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jacket Jockeys with Justin.
And me, Jen, with a J.
Hey, welcome back. We're here to cover season 2, episode 5 of Showtime's enigmatic mystery horror series Yellowjackets, entitled Two Truths and a Lie.
So, I also can't play that game because I am incapable of telling a lie. Yeah.
Was that the problem?
Yeah, I assume so. No, I mean he's deceitful. He just can't resist telling those three juicy tidbits about himself. And
Right.
indeed they are good tidbits. If those things were true about me, I would also contrive a way to tell people I barely know about them, especially
Mhm.
the goat one
Yeah. And there's a goat
in the
in the opening
credits.
credits. So, will we see the goat?
So I don't think we're going to see that goat. I hope to see the goat, but something about the shot makes it look like a bait situation. Like they've tied up a goat to lure a monster or something. So I think it's just designed
But like, they're
to.
not gonna have a goat wouldn't they just eat the goat? Like, what are they doing
No,
with the goat?
correct. They don't have it. No, I don't. No. What I mean is that I don't think that that's a shot is going to show up in the show at all.
Oh,
That
okay.
it's just there to make an ominous, kind of create an ominous vibe, like
Yeah.
the sped up decaying fox corpse and the tree
Right.
blood. I think
Yeah.
it's just for
Yeah.
effect. Not
Yeah.
all of those things are shots from the show. I think.
Yeah.
But if we see a goat, you know,
They had
maybe
they had
Lottie's cult has a goat.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. If it was gonna happen in the show, it would make sense that it would be Lottie Skull
Yeah.
doing some kind of thing, but
So,
um Il veut du son,
ouais, yeah,
the chef.
I think we're right. That's it. We brought it back with us, the goat. Yeah, I think we're all wondering the same thing, having watched this show, which is what is Shauna gonna do to Randy when she finds out that he can't even jerk off right?
Oh man. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. She's already had it with old Randy. And
Randy,
I know that's what it's gonna
that's
sound
what it's gonna
like.
sound like.
Yeah, yeah. It's sad because I feel like Randy's, he's trying to help. He's doing his best. It's just
Randy is really not up for this.
he's just not like
He's not up to the challenge of B male, which is what we should always call blackmail
female,
from now
right?
on. This
I
is what
forgot that he said
everyone
that.
should call it. It's so
That really
funny.
confused me. I didn't even know what it meant. Like, ugh,
Yeah,
B-mail? Is this some
B
kind
male.
of dirty thing? Like, what does that mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'm gonna try to always I don't find I'm gonna find ways to talk about blackmail so that I can call it B mail. Yeah, he's not cut out for this life. Jeff's not cut out for this
Yeah,
life.
Jeff's definitely not either. I mean, I feel like Jeff's a little more with it than
Yeah.
Randy is, but yeah, neither one of them really knows what they're doing in these high high intensity scenarios they seem to be in the middle of at this
Yeah.
stage. Randy especially is being thrown into situations he really doesn't understand
Yeah.
on a fundamental level. Like he's being manipulated and like in contexts where he just doesn't even understand the larger circumstances. Like he's just like, why? Like some guy took me on a boat and questioned me about
Yeah.
Natalie and some purple people, and now I'm here. Like now we're gonna pretend like we're having an affair. Like what? Like
Yeah,
why?
it's like the yeah, you're right. There's such a confluence in that scene. There's the motive that she's actually the reason she's actually there, to pretend that they're having an affair to throw off the Adam Martin murder thread.
Mm-hmm.
The is this about the B mail, which is also not, and not
Right.
directly. It's not directly about the B mail.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, the police don't even know about the B-mail, so it's
correct.
like not even on their radar at all.
It's only indirectly about the B mail in the sense that the B mail is what led to Adam's
Right.
murder.
Right.
And then,
Right.
oh, is this connected to what happened on that yacht? And she's like, what? Like it's which is about the kidnapping of Nat, which was not a
Yep.
kidnapping, which we get, finally in this episode, Misty gets
Yeah.
there. hears from Nat, who of course downplays how fucked up it is so that she can not have to have more interactions with Misty.
Indeed, indeed. They
Um,
wanted to save that for next week, clearly.
yeah.
So we'll pick that up next time.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, they wanted to get to a certain point in that story, and it's sort of like, well, you could have played this differently, but whatever. I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Walter needs to watch out or he's gonna get dextered by Misty.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he basically called her a serial
He
killer
called her a serial killer.
to her face, and
It's a compliment.
it's
Compliment.
like if you sure no, I don't think he really meant it as an insult, but he clearly didn't. But like, I still think like if you actually believe that she's that dangerous, like you need to be a little more careful. Like, chill. Like,
Yeah.
why would you, you know, like,
Walter is the opposite of Randy.
yeah,
Like Walter is ready to, with a smile on his face, say like, "I sought you out because you are like a serial killer,"
yeah, yeah,
and Randy
yeah.
can't even jerk off into a condom.
Oh,
I know it's really sad.
he tried. He tried
I
so
don't
hard.
think he tried well. Okay, trying hard is not the same as trying well, but we
It's a
don't
high pressure, you know. It's like, I'll go in there and do it, and, you know, like it's just, I don't know. It's not
it's
a great circumstance,
no. Well,
you
yeah.
know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, I don't know.
It could it have been could he have been set up for success better? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I don't think that Shauna is very invested in his comfort
no.
with a situation.
I mean, I feel like the ideal thing to do would have been to prepare him, say, like, you need to, because they have this other context where he's like gotten back together with his wife, you know, you need to come back with a condom with your stuff. You
You
know?
know, when he scrutinized that condom, I was thinking first of all of the thing in Lost. We found the grave, but I still didn't believe you, so
Yeah,
I dug it
yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's like I had this
Yeah.
flash if he's gonna smell that condom and be like, this hasn't been inside of a woman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing it reminded me of was the Twin Peaks thing when he like reaches into the sink and tastes it and is like
Oh yeah,
baby
baby
laxative.
laxative, right? Nobody knows what baby laxative
It's
tastes
like,
like.
what?
Yeah, people are always tasting cocaine in TV and movies.
Yeah.
I've never tasted cocaine or baby powder
It's-
or baby laxative. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, yeah, like a weird like procedural cliche, I guess, you know, to show something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That guy's so unlikable and I hate his mustache.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have some speculation about where that character might be going. But I think I'll save that for when we get to the
Yeah,
thing, you know, just to like
let's
pick it up along the way. So, are you ready to like dive into
I mean
this
this a lot
business?
happened in this episode in the woods and not or on the island, as I was yet again about to
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
And in the present. So yeah, sure.
Very
Let's
true.
do
Very true.
it.
Yeah, I keep referring to it as cabin, even when they're not in the cabin. I guess woods would be the more logical thing to call it. But the weird thing is that Lottie's camp is like also in the woods. So
Yeah.
anyway,
It's almost like they're trying to establish a
I
parallel.
feel like it is almost like that, and yet
And yet,
somehow anyway. Um okay, so you know, weekly check-in, no postcards, no Jessica Roberts. Yet another week goes by with nary a I mean, you know, technically they did mention Jessica Roberts last week, but only in passing, only sort of incidentally. Um
yeah, we had a thought about this. Oh, was our thought that the previously on clip phone call, that problem I told you about, it's getting
was
worse.
actually to Jessica Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And then she's like, she actually survived and she's in hiding somewhere. And I mean,
Mhm.
I wouldn't rule it out completely, but it is conspicuous how they haven't mentioned it. On the other hand, there's another certain plot in this episode that brings up a thing from a while ago, seemingly out of nowhere after not talking about it for a really long time. And So, I mean, it reminds me of the early days of the Lost Lowdown when I remember like someone had this theory that we talked about it on Lost Lowdown that like the people on the island had some kind of like, mass like brain illness or something induced by the island that was making them like not care about stuff except for when it was their episode.
Wait,
Like
someone really thought that?
I mean, did they
Or
really think that? They certainly acted like they thought that. I don't know. I
because
mean,
it sounds like a funny joke.
I can't say for sure what they had in their mind. It does sound like a funny joke, but like I feel like that's the way we portrayed it, but I think the way they presented it, like they did actually mean something like that more like sincerely. They just I think they wouldn't have it's just like when you reframe it, it's like, yeah, I think that's just TV contrivance. I don't
Yeah,
think there's really more to it
yeah,
than that,
yeah.
but
Whereas I am starting to let go of my early theory that by engaging in cannibalism and specifically eating a raw, like old human corpse, they've got some kind of brain altering amoeba that is giving them these hallucinations. In part, I have abandoned it because even from the beginning, I mean, there were hallucinations in season one. I know you're laughing. I see you laughing. That's fine. I persist in the belief that you cannot eat a human without adverse medical effects if you are a human. If you're a, I don't know,
raccoon,
mongoose,
okay.
yeah, I'm sure you're fine. But yeah, I mean, they don't need our brains, so maybe that's anyway, whatever. That's not what this episode is about.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. Well, obviously they do have lingering effects, but yeah, they mostly seem to be psychological.
Yeah, the psychological. And then the coach has these. I mean, we saw almost none of Coach in this episode.
He has one notable scene
Yeah,
this
indeed,
week,
yes.
which is very notable and very. We will talk
Scene.
about it.
It's very notable and very seen. Yeah, I derailed you. Let's get back to the
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say that because, I think if anyone should be bringing up, especially because there's this bit later where Misty's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know Lottie had a camp," I think in a way, like they have to say that because if she knew Lottie had a camp, it's like, why didn't you say that shit earlier? Like, why didn't this come up?
Yeah.
Why did you act like you didn't know about it? And it's like, well, they're just gonna say that she didn't know about it, you know.
Hmm.
But because, well, I mean, actually it's Natalie who should be the most invested in it. But I think Misty is the more like inclined to like investigate evidence and like follow clues and stuff like that's part of her character. So that's why I say her. But like one of the two of them or both, and maybe it's coming. Maybe they're just putting it on hold until we get to a certain point. Just like with the note from Travis that they addressed this week. But it's just weird that the impetus for Natalie to come back to New Jersey and she goes to confront Misty with a gun and that whole thing is based on the postcard, and they get together and they talk about the postcard and at first they think it's the B mailers who are doing it,
Excellent.
but then like later on Ty sort of like changes her mind and is like we don't know, even though she was the one who said they thought it was the same. And then it seemed like the show was signaling that maybe we shouldn't accept that it's the B mailers who are sending the postcards and it's someone else.
I'm prepared to believe that it was Walter.
And at the end of the season, it feels like it should be Lottie. But if it was really Lottie, it feels like they should have said that by
I
now.
know.
So either it's a contrivance and they're just waiting to tell us, or it actually is somebody else. And I think you're definitely right that like Walter is the best candidate of the of the people we know about. If it's someone we've heard of on the show like that, and it's not Lottie or Jeff, then that is the
Yeah.
best answer. And he's hiding some agenda involving the Yellowjackets that we have yet to find
Yeah.
out about,
Yeah.
which I think is not out of the question. I mean, where is the Walter plot going is definitely in the air. And as we talked about last week, I'm just skeptical that they're going to do the Adam Martin thing again, where
Right.
they tell us, no, 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 he's just on the level. He's just who he appears to be. There is
Yeah.
no, why did you think, you know, like
Yeah, it's
it would
just
be such a weird repetition and troll to like do the exact same thing again.
well, and I think because they've already revealed this early in the season. What are we like halfway through the season now?
Yeah, this is the halfway point.
Yeah, so at this in this episode we find out that he knows or that he believes that she killed Adam Martin or was involved in the
Mm-hmm.
Adam Martin thing that
Yeah.
you know, and that he doesn't care
Yeah.
ostensibly. Um so that's kind of early to find out, and then he vanishes. So he's obviously not gone. And we've found this piece out early enough in this season that it makes sense that there's another reveal coming
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so sometimes I will admit, sometimes I think that you hang on to things for too long.
I do
Um,
hang on to things for a long time.
I'm glad that you're aware of that.
It was a big deal in season one. I feel like I'm not that
No, 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 I know. I
out
mean,
of line.
for sure. So what I'm saying, what I was trying to say is that this time around, I think that what you are obsessing about is going to pay off.
Yeah.
I do think that we are going to get more on those two things.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I feel less certain about Jessica Roberts just because, like, ostensibly there is an ending for her character on screen. Like, it could be if they want, she could just be dead. The end. You know, if they want it that way, they can have it that way. You know, and like basically, like no one really cared about her anyway, so like they can just, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I feel
yeah.
like it's okay. Like I could more easily accept that that was the end, and I like so
But she called her. I mean, well, I think that that phone call
yeah.
was to her. And so I think that they're holding on to her either because they couldn't get the actress or because they're not really sure yet what they want to do with it.
Yeah, yeah,
But I do not think we've seen the end of Jessica.
yeah.
I
Okay.
thought I did think that she was dead. That was it. When it happened,
Yeah.
because I thought she'd served her purpose. But
Yeah, it felt that way.
I now think that we're gonna get more on that.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, maybe. I'm
Um,
just saying, like,
it's possible that that phone call was a voicemail.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it could be.
but we may not see her alive again. But I just think there's gonna be something else about
It's
her.
frustrating that they're like reusing a scene for previously on that still hasn't previously on is what they
Yeah,
really should
previously on,
say.
previously on.
It's like it's like, can you please tell us the context of the scene that didn't actually happen in the show? I'd love to know who the fuck is she talking to. Anyway, whatever.
Maybe on the next previously on, we'll get the whole thing.
It's like I don't know. I wish they just cut
Was it
it
a
in.
mobisode?
There,
Did we miss the
I don't
mobisode?
think there's any mobisodes,
Did
but
people
it's
say
like
mobisode? Ugh, what a horrible word.
I think
Mobisode.
there was those short tracks, the Star Trek short tracks. I don't
Ugh,
think those are really mobisodes, but they were like little episodes that
pass.
I think were released online only, you know. But
Is-
I do think that trend. I mean, I don't think anyone calls them mobisodes anymore.
I hope not.
But I do think that trend has mostly died down. Because like the thing was like putting that stuff online as a bonus, but now like everybody
Right.
watches stuff
It's just
online, so
online,
it's not
right?
really like it's not really a special thing or a bonus. It's just like, well, just and it's just like you're on Showtime. Like surely they would let you put an extra 2 minute scene at the most. Like
Yeah.
I just why would they cut it if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so vital that they need to include it multiple weeks in a row? Anyway, whatever. Again, it's hard for me to let things go, but yeah, I just
Well, see, what you need to do is stare into the eyes of someone you've stabbed in the face with a fork and visualize your darkest thoughts. And that will help you let it go. That will help you to deal with all of these, you know, thoughts that you have. Because none of
yeah,
it's real.
it's all fake. It's just in your
It's all
head.
in your
There is no
head.
one can help you but yourself. You just need to accept that it's all in your head and
We all
move on.
exist within the dream, within the eye of a turtle, but the
Oh,
turtle is us, and we
we're
are
the
the
turtle.
turtle.
We're the turtle. All right. Anyway, sorry. That was a huge sidetrack.
What?
Shall we shall we actually begin the episode?
Do
So I
let's.
already talked about previously on. I'm not gonna go on that rant again. See next
If you want to hear it again, rewind.
if they play it again next week, I will surely mention it again next week. Anyway, so we open up on a van montage, sort of a earlier bit of where we got to in the last
Yeah,
episode with Taisa walking in. So it's basically showing like what happened right before that, like that same day.
yeah, we
That's
lead
the
into it.
implication. So we get a little montage. She rewinds the tape, goes downstairs, grabs the mail, opens the store. It's a VHS rental store. It's not just like a movie rental store. It's VHS specifically. Definitely further
And we find out that they rent VCRs,
yeah, which they
which
would
they
have
would have
to.
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like, yeah, if someone comes in, there's like some customer business, and it's like, what do those box things play movies? And it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but she's so nice, she's not judgy at all. It's the opposite of high fidelity, which is referenced
Which is,
later.
yeah, definitely reference, which makes sense. Yeah,
She doesn't roll her eyes at these Gen Zers.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, if you're gonna,
It's like she's running a historic site.
yeah,
She's
well,
basically a third person interpreter educating people about the history of the 90s.
yeah,
Think of it that way.
that's
She
pretty.
should apply for some grants. There's some humanities funding for that.
Well, but I feel like it's also like a hipster kind of, old school authentic, almost like like a vinyl, like a record store,
I
it's
believe it's
like
pronounced
old
vinyl.
vinyl. It's like old school technology,
Yeah, yeah,
sort of fetishized. Like I feel like that's the,
for sure. This is the
so
moment for that.
it's like
Taylor Swift put out a cassette tape.
yeah, it's like catering to the of like ooh old shit, like
Yeah,
I don't know, and of course it fits in with the general like '90s
right.
nostalgia aspect of the show,
And it didn't
and
feel bad at all when you just said old shit about something that's, yeah,
well,
it's fine.
I mean, look, all right,
We're in the
whatever.
demographic.
I mean, definitely. I I started podcasting in 2006, all right? So it's been a long time, all right? It's been a few years.
Been long in the tooth.
Woo!
Got some mileage.
Yeah, yeah, getting up there.
Well,
All
I
right.
think everybody watching this show is between the ages of 35 and 50.
Yeah, I mean, probably not everybody, but certainly a majority. Thaisa walks in and we kind of pick up where we left off with an extra beat where Thaisa just like collapses when she walks in, which is very strange. And they go
Classic.
into credits off that. I they don't even really talk about that later, so I don't know what to do with that. It's a weird bit.
It was a really tough ride in
She's like,
this time.
like
I'm
okay.
so exhausted
Yeah, it's like
listening to that truck driver
if
stories.
it almost makes more sense if she walked all the way there, But anyway, whatever. I'm still stuck on that. Okay, more on that later. So
Okay.
so then we go over to the cabin, we get a wood shot, and we see the ice melting, like the icicles are shown dripping, right? Which I thought was
Did
signaling
not pay off.
I thought it
Yeah.
was signaling that like winter's ending and that actually that means the crazy winter stuff like Pit Girl and all that is going to happen the following winter. But then there's like a huge winter storm later in the episode, so it's like I guess it didn't really mean that. I guess it was just like it's a sunny day and pretty soon it's going to be like cold as shit again. I don't know, like
I don't
anyway.
know. I thought similarly that's what that shot was saying, that winter was over now. But I'm allowing the possibility for that because that winter storm, and I know we'll talk about the scene when we get there, but there's these shots of the woods like they're not acting normal. And the idea that this winter storm, the timing of it, and so there's two versions. One is just, yeah, ice melt, there are warm days and then it gets cold again. This is how winter works. On the other hand, and this is like the Lindelof thing, was that just an ordinary naturally occurring winter storm, or did the woods send it to try to trap uh uh trap Shauna in the woods to deliver in the storm? If so, why? Anyway, so I've got some questions about that.
Or perhaps the woods groundhog intentionally didn't see a shadow so that
Oh my
the
god.
winter would continue
Oh my
for
god.
longer, and so it's going to be a really long winter, and that's going to lead to,
Fucking Puxatawny,
yeah,
Phil.
yeah.
Now we know where they are. They're in Puxatawny.
Which I think is in Pennsylvania, which doesn't add up at all. But anyway, I
Is a van in Pennsylvania?
oh, did they say that?
Well, Thaisa said that she drove across Pennsylvania, all the way across Pennsylvania.
Oh,
So she's
okay.
in Pennsylvania or, I don't know, Ohio?
Yeah, I don't actually.
West
I
Virginia?
didn't really look up where they. I have no idea
No,
where
it
they
doesn't.
are.
It
They're
doesn't
clearly
matter.
somewhere else.
I'll tell
But
you, it doesn't matter, but it is significant that they're not in upstate New York, which is where I assume that the cult
yeah,
is.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I think it's basically confirmed because they
Okay.
said it was Cherry Corners, New York,
All
and
right, Cherry Corners.
surely that's not. I
If
mean,
it's not in,
upstate is anywhere in New York that isn't New York City. Therefore,
that's
I think it
correct.
has to be upstate, like by definition. Anyway,
Correct.
um, okay, so yeah, so we see right wood shot, ice melting. We see the map. They do a shot of the map. Um, Thaisa wakes up. I guess the implication here that I didn't really catch the first time, but the second time I thought is that like she slept in and she's been sleeping really well
Yeah,
lately. Like I
right.
didn't really get that the first time, but the second time, like, oh, I guess that was the point because like no one else is there. She's just waking up by herself.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
she talks to Shauna about the pregnancy taking a long time. And she's gonna go out to Lottie's morning ritual group circle, which she's doing for Van. This is a new thing they introduced in this episode. Lottie's morning meditation or whatever you want to call it, and it's helped her to stop sleepwalking. But Shauna is not particularly pleased by that, and she just kind of sits there and sulks, and we'll hear more about that later. Then we go over to Lottie's morning circle ritual group, and it's like, what do you hear and what do you feel? And they just kind of like say, like, I feel the winds and I hear the boys, and it's like that kind of thing. Just like, yep, I feel the stuff that's obviously here. I don't know. It's a very being in the moment kind
Yes,
of.
that is exactly right. I'm
Um,
laughing and shaking my head because I feel a little bit indicted by this, by the tone that you're using for this. But these are just basic mindfulness techniques,
oh
which, of
yeah.
course, in the 90s, teenagers didn't know about. I mean, teenagers
Well, I
in
haven't
the
grown up
United
since then, so I still
States,
think it's stupid.
I can tell.
No,
Uh,
I
no,
really
but it's
don't.
not
It's
about
fine.
saying like you're finding something unusual that you hear, although maybe, but it's just about intentional noticing. And I gotta say, Thaisa adult, what a typical American to know that there was a specific time in your past where there was a basic meditation ritual, mindfulness ritual that you did and it helped with your problem, but you are nonetheless unwilling to try it now. You would rather end up killing your own dog than just adopt a mindfulness routine. Yeah.
Who's watching Steve, by the way?
Who's watching Steve?
Just gotta
Who's
throw it out there.
watching Sammy?
Well, yeah. See, but I think you answered that one. Like the most logical answer for that is like Simone's family is watching Sammy.
Yeah,
That's
right. But nobody even knows about Steve.
Simone's family ain't
Steve's
taking Steve.
Steve is hungry.
Steve is like resorting to cannibalism. Like,
What?
yeah. He's gonna eat that. He's gonna eat all
Oh,
the
don't say it. Ugh,
biscuits.
ugh, biscuits, rotting head, disgusting. No, maybe Steve's gonna find his way into a cabinet and get some good
I
Cheetos.
hope so. I hope Ty gets home and it's like Steve's been having a party and like he burps
She
when she walks in.
she probably left the fucking door open. He's like,
She promised I'll be better with you, Steve. And then like she
well,
forgot about
I think we
Steve.
know what her promise is worth now.
Well, okay, fair enough. Yeah, so like I mean, well, whatever. I'm just gonna finish the scene here. So Akila joins as well. Misty and Crystal have a little bestie moment. We're gonna We're gonna come back to that later. Lottie says this is important because, quote, a new life is coming and we can't wait to meet him. And they repeat that. And Shauna watches them saying this, which is not creepy, I'll say. And walks away, and icicles drip. And go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just, you're like, I'm gonna finish this scene, and I'm like, hear me out. No. It, this is where my yeah, I'm on board ends. Like, what does this have to do with welcoming the baby? It's one thing to be like, we're gonna be connected to one another and we're gonna be mindful and blah blah blah, but like, this is where it becomes creepy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like that's the stuff in this episode where Lottie like gets weird and like kind of goes to a place that isn't just like healthy. I think like it's like this weird obsession with the baby. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like that's well, I'm almost certain this isn't going to have a happy ending. So I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but it's just like if all Lottie ever did was take him out in a circle and have him like be present and listen to the sounds of the woods, like I think they would have been all right. Clearly,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
where things stay. So I think that's where the concerns happen. And
Tell you what, I think it might come up in the inevitable confrontation between Lottie and Shauna.
yeah, it's interesting. I think there's something specifically creepy about invoking Shauna's baby when she's clearly willfully not participating in this thing.
Yeah, it's
You
like a
know,
Rosemary's
it
Baby.
just yeah, it very much has that vibe of like like what right is it of yours to like somehow like act like you're the guardians of this baby or something,
Yeah.
like the you know if she was there and she was on board, sure, but I think when she's obviously like rejecting what you're doing, it's like it just seems like couldn't you just not do that? Can't you just do the other stuff? I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
the other thing that was like kind of surprising to me about this plot line this week is, last week it really seemed like with the whole like Thaisa finding the symbols, and then Van does this test, and then they find Javi and she comes back and she's like, well, Lottie knew he was alive, but Thaisa knew where he was. And you know it really seemed like they were setting up a thing where where Lottie and Thais are going to be like rivals or something. But that's very much not the case this week. It's Thais is like going to Lottie's circle and
Yeah.
is like, hey, it's helping. You know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
No rival. She's actually taking her side in multiple. It's actually Shauna who's having the sort of conflict with Lottie this week, like
Yeah.
more so, and Natalie too. But she's always had, so that's nothing new,
Right.
but like it's just weird that it seemed like it was setting up for like different, and
Yeah.
Mari is like gonna take her side, but Van's gonna take Thais' side, and it's like that's wasn't. I don't know. It's just like, did I misread that, or is it like this is a pause and they'll come back to it? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought
Yeah.
it didn't really feel like it was flowing from what I expected based on last week. So I just thought, I don't know. I just thought that was notable and strange.
I agree, and I was wondering how much time was supposed to have passed between the last episode and this one.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
I thought the same thing with the icicles dripping. It made me think like a decent
yeah.
amount of time had passed and like they were actually going to go into the spring and the summer. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. I thought it was especially weird given the fact that it seems like at least there's been reports that they have a 5-season plan for the show, and I would think they would want to drag out the flashback plot like longer than that. I would
Yeah.
think they wouldn't want to burn through the first winter in season 2. That just
Right.
seems, and like what, they only ate one person in the first winter, like, and it was just a purely circumstantial thing. Like really.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, there is another dead body by the end of this episode, so
Yeah.
may not
Well,
just be one person, but
yeah, I mean, they got to eat her.
yeah.
I think yeah, so I agree about that conflict that they seem to be teeing up. Um, but there's this other conflict that we're about to get to with Nat and Travis, where it
Hmm.
seems like not very much time has passed.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But it's strange. I mean, Ty going to morning meeting seems like a new thing, and yeah, I don't know, in terms of the question of, is everyone involved in that same clique with the antler queen, or is there a separate camp? I don't know.
Yeah. There's definitely some lines later that imply that, they're not all on the same page anymore and they're sort of aware of it. And, like, um, so it's like we are heading for a thing like that. But on the other hand, like Shauna survives, right? Natalie survives,
Right, right,
right? So it's just like inevitably, like they can't. I mean, if they're on the opposing side, they can't get eaten.
right. If they're
So
sitting around that semicircle eating, pit girl,
yeah,
like,
and Shauna had her speech, right? She had her big speech about peeled back the skin, right? She didn't do
yeah,
that to Jackie, right?
right,
She and the look on someone's face and they know they're gonna die. It's like that's not Jackie.
right.
That so she must have participated, right? So I just feel like that's and I'm certain that Ty did. It might just be the bad one, but nonetheless,
Yeah. Well, maybe
that seems clear.
yeah, maybe whatever unfolds with the baby is gonna be what shifts this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that like Tace is just doing it for Van is the most logical thing, but then the fact that it's actually helping like makes sense that that would encourage her to continue to do it. And it's just interesting. It's like it's back to your point from earlier, like did you try just and like do you know about Lottie's camp right now? Like maybe
Yeah.
that's actually a better place for you to go than
Right.
like because the stuff she's doing is like very much on a similar page to what they were doing in the woods. So
Yeah. I mean, it is super manipulative of her to show up to Van's place if she knows about Lottie, which I'm not clear
I'm
yet.
not clear either.
Uh,
But Van, not Van, Jessica Roberts line about like they're, some were living off the grid and like
yeah.
Van, I don't think count. I mean, if you're running a store, that ain't off the grid.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a liberal interpretation of the phrase off the grid.
Very liberal,
But
very liberal.
but yeah, I mean there is this idea of some of the actions are being undertaken by Thaisa, and some of them are being undertaken by the other Thaisa.
Yeah,
And if it's the
yeah,
other it is the other Thaisa who breaks into Jessica Roberts' place and
yeah.
finds out
It
where Van
is.
is
Yeah,
and shows up.
clearly.
Uh, I don't know, to try to be closer to what was going on back
And they
then.
play that clip of like, oh, some of them are really living off the grid, like
Yeah.
implying that she means Van.
Yeah, I just think it's like, the line really functions to say, like, they're hard to find.
I agree. I agree. I think maybe it was an ill-chosen phrase. You
But
know,
yeah.
some of them are really not.
Or Jessica Roberts is
I
such a
don't know.
cosmopolitan, like, city person.
Oh,
Anybody who lives, like, in a
not in
town.
a large city is automatically off the grid. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think that's not out of the question. Whatever. I mean, parsing a line too carefully is something I don't
Something we
hesitate
do
to
all the
do,
time.
but it's not necessarily the most rewarding activity, no offense to myself. Okay. So, all right,
None
you ready
taken
to continue
to
from
yourself.
here or
Yes.
okay. So we go back to present. Callie and Jay, who's actually Matt, the detective. I'm just calling him Jay because that's the character he's playing in this context.
Hmm.
um, at a bowling alley. Callie proposes that if she gets a strike, then Jay has to kiss her. He looks at the score and agrees because she's losing, but she actually gets a strike, as we all expected, and leans in, but Jay hesitates and gives some excuses. So Callie wants to leave, but Jay tries to talk her down and kind of succeeds and goes to the bathroom. Then a staff person comes over with a check and Callie notices that the name on the check doesn't really match Jay, so she Googles the name that's on the check and finds out that he's actually Matt the detective, and this is how she discovers that she's been played this whole time. She's been hanging out with this cop, and I guess based on the later scene, not actually telling him a whole lot.
Yeah.
I assume she'd been like talking his ear off, but like based on the later scene, it's like it seems like she hasn't actually said anything else pertinent beyond the thing that we heard earlier about, oh,
Yeah.
my mom's having an affair, blah blah blah. Like it seems like they just been talking about whatever, and he's just like been waiting for a moment to like try to press her for more information. He's really working her like he's undercover, even though he's like technically not undercover, but he's literally undercover, but he's not actually undercover. Anyway,
But if you ever find yourself with a mysterious stranger who has that mustache, you should definitely suspect that they're an undercover cop. I think that she looks at the credit card receipt or the credit card slip, whatever. It's not just laying open. Like she
yeah,
looks
she
at
goes
it.
to look. No,
So,
I think the idea is like she's suspicious at this point,
mhm,
and he's clearly like hesitating because he's like, yeah, I can't actually like this is like someone in high school, like this is
yeah.
I'm already pushing it here, giving her alcohol and stuff. Like, I really don't need to be involved with a high school student as a cop. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
gonna hold up in court very well. Like,
No,
this is,
it's not.
I'm in line to get like, suspended or something for this shit.
Yeah.
It's very questionable what he's doing. So anyway, I feel like it sends up red flags for her that like he's like rejecting her advances, and
Hmm.
so I feel like that's why she looks at the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is up with you? What's going on? Who are you really? And of course she's right about that. It's yeah. So we'll get more on that later. So we go back to the cabin. We got Gen and Melissa. Gen with a G, obviously. It'd be weird to spell Gen with a J.
It would be.
Um, they discuss Javi not talking. I had to look up Melissa. I was like, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
She kind of looks like Laura Lee. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. She's not
Laura
Laura
Lee
Lee because
type.
Laura Lee's dead. But
Mm.
yeah, the one who's Laura Lee, she's like wearing a hat a lot of times. She's like this hat
Okay.
wearing character.
Okay.
Anyway, and we all know who Gen was, the foaming at the mouth one
Mhm.
when Coach Ben came in. Like, I am still hungry. Anyway,
It makes her sound cute.
yeah, it wasn't cute at all. So they discuss Javi not talking. Van tries to talk to Javi. Mari assumes that he stole the bear meat. She has this line, right? It's very lost, this moment where she's like, you could at least tell us something if you after stealing the bear meat. It's like telling the viewer that like maybe we should assume he stole the bear meat, but we don't actually get specific confirmation that he stole the bear meat.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense, but also didn't Ty and Van like trek out pretty far to where he was? Like, isn't it weird that he would, especially given what he says later, isn't it weird that he would go back and steal bear meat and then like go far away?
I mean, if he's hungry and he feels like he has to stay far away because
Why
they're
can't your
searching
plane
for.
get you some food? All right, whatever.
Well, that's another
Fair enough.
question.
All right, yeah, we can talk about that later. But Van tries to get Travis to help, but Travis says he'll talk when he's ready. Nat's gonna go to the stream to check the gill net. I don't even know what that means. Like for fish or something. I don't know what a gill net is, and I didn't research it because
Yeah, I
I'm
also
a good podcaster.
I also don't know what a gillnet is, but I do know what context clues are.
Yeah, I agree. She asked Travis to come, but he says no. We'll probably get more on that later. Um, as well as the hobby thing.
Indeed. I like you
Um,
the probably probably.
I mean, if I were a betting man, as certain notorious podcasters used to say, that's not the Lost Lowdown, by the way. That's the official Lost podcast. This
Oh,
is
oh,
this is a classic like Damon Lindelof line. Like, well, if I were a betting man, I would say that
what a joker.
I would say that Anthony Cooper might be the real. So like they would say these things. It was in retrospect. I'm like, you know what? Of course you wrote a show like this because that's how you are for real. it was like they could never just say like this thing's true. They'd just be like, well, I think it's probably this. I would bet on this,
Hmm.
but never definitive. Never like you're right. The fucking thing. Don't you know what the truth is? It's like no, no,
Oh,
no,
Justin.
no.
Oh,
There's
Justin.
no anyway.
Great art is all about multiple interpretations.
Oh God. Anyway, let's move on. So Akila checks on her mouse. Remember, she's got a pet mouse.
The tamest mouse
The
ever.
sweetest, tamest mouse. She's feeding the mouse, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I couldn't." No, that's not her voice. That's the mouse.
That's the mouse, yeah.
Um,
It's okay, sweetie. I know you brought me everything that you
I'm
can.
sorry, I couldn't give you more or whatever. But then Mari walks in. It ruins everything. Because
Spoils
Mari's
everything.
just mean, and she's totally gonna die. I'm so sure that she's gonna die. Because
She's mean.
she's just mean, like in scene after scene. She's mean after mean. Anyway, she comes over and she's got these cards. We don't really know what they are at the time, but later we learn that they're like chore cards.
Yeah.
It's like you get to choose what your chore is
There are
going to be.
52 chores.
Yeah, don't even. Um, go ahead, but don't even. Yeah, so chores to pick from. And then we go over to Misty and Crystal, or Mistle, if you
Yeah,
will.
I will.
Mistle
Let's use it while we can.
Mistle's a very short-lived
Yeah.
relationship. Um, but anyway, they had to have some scenes with them because of where we're going here in this episode. So they talk about like three people they'd invite for a slumber party. I think it's hilarious that Misty says she'd invite Plato to a slumber party.
Play-Doh,
I can't even
obviously.
imagine like what. Anyway,
I would not invite Play-Doh to a slumber
I
party.
just, I mean, she also says Jack Kevorkian, but I feel like that's like more reasonable than Plato for a variety of reasons. Anyway, um,
Jack Kevorkian is another reference that those kids who don't know what VHS tapes are would not
yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, that's what they're going for. That was a big like story in the '90s, and
Yeah, and then of course, then she ends up working at an elder care
yep,
center when she's a girl.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like that's like kind of what they're. It's like that flashback thing where they're kind of like signaling where she's
Yeah,
gonna go. Like she's like got this sort of
she becomes like a
ethos.
serial killer in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. I'm here to help. And yeah, anyway. Right. So yeah, then Mari comes over and offers them some chore cards, and I think we learn later that Crystal picked the dump the shit bucket
Dump the shit bucket.
chore card. So this brings up a very minor point that I will bring up, even though it's a very minor point. Earlier on in the season, there's a mystery about who shit in the pee bucket.
Yep.
And in this episode, we find out that there's a shit bucket. So, I mean, question one is why
Are
didn't
you
you just
allowed
shit in
to?
the shit bucket? Question two, where is the shit bucket normally? Is it outside? Because I thought from Natalie's line, the implication was you just go somewhere in the woods and drop your shit there. I didn't think they had a shit
No,
bucket.
I thought that there was a there's a little outhouse,
Okay.
and well, maybe it's like, okay, so at night it's like a chamber pot. At night, you don't have to go all the way to the outhouse. You can just pee in the pee
Do they
bucket.
have an outhouse or is it just the meat shed? Because it seems weird to shit in the meat shed.
Showed somebody should no, they're not
Maybe they have an
shitting in the meat
outhouse.
shed. I believe there's an
Okay.
outhouse because
Okay.
I believe that there's a shot where we see it and somebody
Okay.
makes some cheeky comment about fiber or something.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but no, I mean, I thought you were gonna ask whether it's a violation to pee in the shit bucket.
That's also a very valid point, but I do feel that it's less of a violation to pee in
Indeed.
the shit bucket than it is to shit in the pee bucket. Especially because, like, if you pee in the shit bucket, it's actually going to help, like, dislodge the shit,
Is
you
that
know?
right?
Yeah, because, like, the liquid will
You have a
keep
lot of
it.
bucket experience.
Well, no, but I have like a solid and liquid experience, and if you pour a liquid on a solid,
Yeah.
it'll keep it more so from sticking to the sides, and I think it'll make it a little easier to dump it,
Fair enough.
and it's not gonna smell as bad as the shit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I feel like peeing in the shit bucket is a service.
It's a service. I
You
see.
should get
Yeah.
a bonus for that.
A bonus of what?
I don't know, a
Pub and bear
bonus.
meat?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Just yeah, like perks. I don't
You
know.
get a pet mouse for
You get
every
a
time you
pet
pee in
mouse.
the
Sure, why
shit
not?
bucket.
Why not? Okay. Um, You ready to?
Yeah.
Okay. So go back to the present. We're in the car with Matt and Callie. She's a bit distant and nervous because she just discovered he's a cop. She says that Shauna is actually having an affair with Randy, who's Jeff's best friend. And Matt is clearly disappointed with this revelation because that's not, he wants it to be Adam Martin,
Of
obviously,
course.
as we learn later. So that's sort of the point of that scene. Um, another thing I just wanted to say is like, I mean, people change and all that, but I do, from what we've seen of Randy in the show, I do find it a bit incongruous that he used to be a bully. Like, he really doesn't seem like a bully character at
Oh,
all.
I forgot that that
They said
was.
like he made someone eat a frog. Like Misty said that, I think, right? He made someone eat a frog, and the only thing that works with him is bad cop. But he seems like such a pushover. He
Yeah.
seems like like not remotely like a bully
Yeah,
character. So
that's
I
ridiculous.
find that a bit like did he just like totally change from the earlier days? Like I
It
don't know.
makes me
Anyway,
wonder, maybe I don't know. I want to see the flashback where we see that frog scene because that doesn't add up.
I agree, but it's just they said it and they didn't like suggest that it wasn't. I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
That's funny.
It's a minor
That's funny.
point.
He is like he would be the worst bully
Yeah,
ever.
I know. It's like who could take him seriously as a bully? I don't know. Anyway, it's just something about that feels weird to me. Okay. So we'll come back to that, of course. Then we go over to Misty and Walter driving to Lottie's camp. Walter offers some tapes, but Misty thinks they need to concentrate. So Walter offers to play to help them concentrate. Walter offers to play Two Truths and a Lie, the episode title, and he goes first. And his first uh, thing is that he makes artisanal goat cheese from a goat named Billy, and his second possible truth or lie is that Barry Manilow might be his father. And his third is that he has Taco Bell stock and he's never actually been to Taco Bell. It turns out that all three are true. At least that's what he claims. And Misty objects to this since that's not the rules of the game. You're supposed to tell two truths and a lie. It's almost a lie to tell the truth in that case. You might say you might
I
call it a
hey.
true lie.
Oh.
Anyway, or a
Or
lying
lie
truth.
true.
Anyway, but he says there's only one rule: win, and that feels like foreshadowing to me. Anyway, he
Indeed.
wants Misty to play, and she starts by saying, "I do not like monkeys." And I think we're asking the wrong questions about the moon landing. And then she interrupts, seeing a sign that indicates Lottie's camp, and so they get out. Okay,
Mhm.
so I just have to pause for a second and say, um, that's a weird line. That's a weird line on a number of levels because I feel like there's two people. There's people who, just believe the moon landing happened and therefore aren't asking questions about it, right? I mean, what question, like how is spaceflight possible? Like, what kind of question would you ask, in the context where the only context I would think about that would be that you don't believe it happened. But then why is that the wrong question? Like
Yeah.
it was faked. Like what how is that, like what do you mean we're asking the wrong questions? I don't know. That makes
Yeah,
no
what
sense
that
to me.
really reminds me of is the Twin Peaks when Cooper thinks that he's dying from the gunshot wound and he's recording the message uh and he says, that he has few regrets in life or whatever he says, and who pulled the trigger on
Yeah,
JFK.
yeah, 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 yeah. What
It was
really went on
really,
between Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys?
yes.
Who pulled the trigger on JFK? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it'd be weird if he was like, people are asking the wrong questions about, it's like
Yeah.
if they're asking questions, isn't that like what you're saying
You
must be
know,
the right approach? Like it's
it
just a weird. I
back
don't know.
in the 90s, the touch point for the show and for me, I remember seeing Jonathan Frakes, or Commander Riker, as you may know him,
William T.
William T. Riker, host
Tiberius.
Tiberius, of course, hosted a special on the moon landing and various conspiracy theories about it, and like the lighting in
Hmm.
the show, and I found it very compelling.
What was like buying into it? It was like this is like some real shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was paid. He was a paid actor hosting the show.
Sure, sure.
But yeah,
But it's just funny. It's funny to do Star Trek and then to
yeah,
do a like space travel is fake. you know, like
you
you
know,
know. I mean, obviously Star Trek is fake. I do understand that, but it's like aspirational. It's like
no,
it
all the rest of that stuff happens in our future, but the moon landing was fake.
okay. All right, that's
Well,
just
he wasn't
weird.
doing it in costume. He was doing it.
Yeah, but I just feel like it goes against the Star Trek ethos, you
Yeah,
know? And since he's like clearly like deeply committed to the Star Trek world, like he's been heavily
yeah,
involved in Star
yeah.
Trek like since he joined Next Generation, basically. You know, he's directed multiple episodes of Discovery and
Hmm.
he's appeared, you know, like he's
Yeah, it's like when Gillian Anderson hosted that alien autopsy
I know, right? I thought you
reality show.
believed in science. You liar. No, but to me that is actually different because I feel like the ethos of X Files is that that shit's true, like sure she was right a few times, but ultimately like there are aliens and there are conspiracies, and you know what I mean? Like it validates that point of view, but like Star Trek does not validate that space exploration was just a big hoax, like so that just seems weird. Like it's a weird it would want to say the opposite of that, and so I don't know. I know he didn't like make Star Trek originally, but it's just like, did he change his mind about that? Does he regret it? I don't know. It just raised a lot of questions,
He
and
doesn't regret the new car he
I
bought.
need answers.
Look, I may have inadvertently pulled us off on quite a tangent here, but I do just want to close this out by saying science is a high stakes game.
But all right, fine. Okay, so yeah, so then uh Van oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The only other thing I wanted to mention about that is just that like there's only one rule: win. Like to me that line, I think you can pair that up with I'm a bored Moriarty looking for my Sherlock. It definitely feels like there's some foreshadowing that he has a hidden agenda, that there's some game he's playing that we have yet to find out about. And like I think there's a very strong possibility that that's true. So anyway, I just thought that line was notable in that context, that he
Yeah,
he just cheats at the game and is like, so what?
yeah.
You know? Okay. Um Van so then we go over to Van, this is present day. Van watches someone's tapes that she's digitizing. This is obviously present day. This isn't happening at the cabin. Ty walks in. Van wants to know what's going on. She deduces that it's happening again, meaning the sleepwalking, obviously. Sleepwalking. That feels like the wrong word at this point, but
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it because we all know what I mean. Ty shows her the revealing pen from the truck, and Van asks how bad it is, and that's kind of where we leave things for now. So I just have to like point out that like this is the only payoff of that truck ride that we've had so far. Like she got that pen from the truck, and she shows it to Van here,
Yeah.
gives it to her, I guess, and like they have a little laugh about it. And I'm like, is that it? Is that it? Is that the whole reason you did that? Just so you could do this pen thing? I don't know. Anyway,
I hold on to hope that it will be relevant.
well, I mean, we'll see, won't we?
I'm such an optimist.
You're such an, I don't know how you get by being an
You know,
optimist.
people are always saying that Gen, such an optimist.
Okay, so then we go over to Shay, Shauna, and Jeff, and they offer a sandwich to Callie. It's a sandwich with cinnamon raisin bread and
It
mustard.
was on sale.
I'm sorry,
Have
that's
you ever tried it?
revolting.
Savory and sweet go together, man.
Not that savory and
Open
sweet.
your
Not
mind.
that savory and sweet. Nuh-uh. I
Yeah.
can't. I can't.
Well, sea salt, dark
Cinnamon
chocolate,
and mustard? No. No.
cinnamon and mustard. You can make a good
No.
sauce with cinnamon and mustard.
No.
I'll make you a nice honey mustard with cinnamon in there. You're gonna love it. Throw some smoked turkey or whatever they're gonna put on it besides mustard, because hopefully it's not just raisin
Oh,
bran
I hope it's
mustard.
just that.
Yeah,
I hope they're just gonna squirt some mustard on some cinnamon bread and say, "Here's your sandwich, Callie."
please never say squirt.
I ate a person, so this is good enough for you.
Well, maybe it's a rabbit sandwich. Yeah, right. Yeah. If you oh you don't like this? I had to survive for 18 months in the woods eating nothing but human flesh.
Oh, you know what? Did we talk about this? This is like a minor. I don't know if it's a minor point. It is a minor point, but like
Everything we say is a minor
it
point.
just it just like because the reveal that Jeff read the diaries, it just really raised the question for me at least of what was in the diaries and what does Jeff actually know? Does he know, for example, uh that Shauna ate Jackie? Does he
Yeah.
know that what happened to the baby, right? Like someone brought this up in another podcast and I was like, this is valid. There's this line, I think it was last week or maybe it was the week before, where he's like, we only have one kid, blah, blah, blah. If he knows about the baby and what befell the baby in the woods, it's a weird thing to say, like, and not acknowledge, like this baby of theirs that was presumably lost in the woods, like that's a line you say when you don't know about that.
Yeah.
So it's like, A, did they just forget that he should know all that shit? Or B, is it just a contrivance because the audience doesn't know yet what happened to the baby? And they don't want to give too much away by having Jeff act like he knows, you know? Or C, something
The
else.
baby's
I don't
dead.
know.
I mean, we have never conceived another child other than this one. I don't know, we'll see. But I feel totally confident we're going to have an episode that is just Jeff looking into the camera and telling the audience everything that he learned from reading those diaries. Also, when was the last time we saw her writing in a diary?
Yeah, it's true. They haven't really been talking about it. It feels like they serve their purpose, and so they're just like not bothering to show them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we're supposed to think they stop, but also like because we don't see what's in the diaries, like it's kind of open that the diaries can have as little or as much as they wanted them to have. Like whatever's convenient for Jeff to know, he'll know, and whatever's inconvenient to know for him to know, he won't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
That's generally how writing works.
yeah, but it's just I don't know. It sticks in my craw, if you will.
I
So I
will.
just had to bring that up. Okay. So Callie tells him she's been hanging out with a cop, and that's how they found out about Shauna's affair. Like she told the cop,
No mustard for
unknowingly.
you.
There's a line here where Jeff indicates that she's still in high school, so they do actually like directly say it. Finally, I don't think. I mean, there was that line you mentioned about your college fund that kind of implies it, but here they just say like you're in high school. Period. End of story. She could not be older than 18. There's no way. So therefore, 100% not the baby from the woods. There's no room for that anymore. Okay. Anyway, she tells them about the lie she told the cop, the lie she told Matt about the Randy affair, like, and
Hmm.
Shauna thinks, hey, you know what, not a bad idea. Jeff's not so sure, but Shauna suggests setting up a meeting with Randy to confirm the lie, if you will, right? They're going to do a ruse. This is setting the stage for a thing that happens later. Okay. So then we go over to Lottie's camp. This is a running gag here. Natalie tries to get into Lottie's cabin, which actually later she refers to as her office. So I'm like, do you sleep there, or is it actually your office, or is it just that part that she was going through is her office? Anyway, whatever.
Her home office.
Side point, side point. Tries to get into Lottie's cabin, but is interrupted by some acolytes. I'm just gonna say acolytes from now on.
Well
Because
done.
I think acolytes is a convenient term
Did
for
you learn
the
that from
purple people that they.
did you learn that word from that SAT book that you were stranded in the woods with?
No, I learned it from the captions in the show because
Indeed.
they just put acolyte,
Indeed.
because they had
Yeah.
no name for the character, or maybe that's what was in the script. I don't know. Anyway, no, I've never learned anything from anything but television.
Then
Um,
that must be why you flunked your SATs.
yeah, you know,
That's all right. You've made a really successful.
And look where I am
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Hey, see,
Hey,
kids, you don't need to do well on the SAT.
yeah.
Fuck it, just watch more TV. It'll pay off in the end. Trust me. All right. Um. Yeah. Interrupted by some acolytes, and they take her to the workshop, and we may pick up on that later. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe this is where we end things. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Okay. So then we go back to the cabin. Ty asks Aquila about joining Lottie's circle. Ty did it for Van, and Aquila did it because Ty went and out of boredom. And then she tells a story, which I won't recount because I don't think it matters, but she does mention this thing about the gist of it is like doing a ritual before the games, and
Yeah.
that like she felt like it helped, but then like Ty's like, you guys lost a lot, and then that's where I just had a little point of confusion where I was like, okay, there's junior varsity. I understand junior varsity is a thing, but they are ostensibly a separate team, and so then I'm like, why are they there? Why are they on the plane? They didn't go, they're not going to nationals, right? Like what?
So the
Anyway,
listener may be gathering from this that you're not a big sports
is
person.
this standard practice that the junior varsity team will sub for the varsity team? Like, will actually, if the varsity team is going to a competition, the junior varsity team will go with them? Like, I
So
seriously know nothing about this world,
yeah,
so
that is clear.
I went to a
So
high school that didn't have sports. Okay, so
yeah, so I don't
cut me
have.
some slack.
I'm not answering this with knowledge, but with what I would call common sense, which is
You
that
like that?
yeah,
I would
no,
go for that.
yeah, clearly, no. I just you got to take a few in case some people get injured.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
You need
I
a
would
backup.
think
But you
that
don't. They didn't bring the whole JV
I
team.
would think that the varsity team would already have their own subs as a part of the team, not like subs from a separate team.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they need more. I don't know. Maybe it's like, yeah, I don't know.
It
Look,
just
kids, if you work really hard, you can be on this chartered airplane crashing in the wilderness and dying. I don't know. Um,
it doesn't matter,
I
but it
think
just like
though,
suddenly struck me as very
for
strange.
sure. So there's something else happening in this scene, which is pretty Lindelofy in a I mean, but like not subtext, just text of the placebo effect of ritual.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe you're sleeping better because you're participating in this thing that at least someone, and perhaps on some level you think is going to help you to sleep better.
yeah, yeah,
And maybe Aquila and the rest of the JVers would have played worse if they hadn't been doing those good luck charms. I mean, people use good luck charms, and when they work, they think they work, and when they don't, they don't think about them.
it's something else. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But just sort of teasing us, on this, the high level question of the show: is there some power in the woods?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's clearly like one of the large questions of the show that's hovering in the background the whole time, and that I think they to me like I'm trying to learn, right? I want to be one who learns, and I mean Lost, you know really made it impossible to believe like, oh, maybe there's actually nothing crazy going on in the right. There was no opportunity to actually believe that. There's some examples of stuff that like you think is crazy but it's not, right? So like sometimes characters like turn something into something bigger than it is, but it's like no, 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 no. I mean there's smoke monster, there's the cave of light, there's a healing pool, there's like a magical cabin, there's like all sorts of weird stuff that is for real happening, and you have no room to believe that maybe it's not. I think the way this show has taken things and the line that they've been walking actually does leave room, and I feel that based on how deep in the show we are at this point and the way they played things so far, I feel like they're going to continue to walk that line going forward, where it's possible to read it as there is actually a supernatural force in the woods that's influencing things and making them do things and is actually back with them in the real world, as we'll talk about later. Or it's actually just in their heads. They believed that it was there and therefore it manifested like it was there. And the idea of it coming back is really just more of a kind of retroactive, psychological reaction to what they all went through than it is like literally, it's more symbolic of the past haunting them than like literally a thing from the past is haunting them. Like
Right.
you
It's
think,
not a poltergeist residue that came back with them.
yeah, yeah. Like I feel like they've really been walking the line. Like they have not definitively said one way or the other, but they've made it possible to believe both sides. And I know in season one there was a big debate about whether or not they were gonna, but I feel like I said, I want to look at what the show is doing and try to understand how they're gonna do things, and don't expect them to suddenly turn a corner that they haven't even remotely tried to turn yet. So based on that, it's my humble prediction that this is the line they will be walking. Now, will there come a point? Will there come a point like, the classic example of this is The Shining, where, it's possible to read most of what happens in that story as is going on in the characters' heads. They're in this creepy location. You have very active, fears and imagination about like what could be lurking in this giant building that they're isolated in, and cabin fever and all that you know but there's a moment where Jack Nicholson is locked in this freezer and it gets unlocked, right? We know Wendy didn't do it. We know Danny didn't do it. So who the fuck did it? The ghost did it, right? There's no other answer. I mean, the ghost literally like says like, we'll let you out if you promise you're gonna kill your family. I mean, they don't say it like that, but that's the implication. And then the click, right? You can't, right? It's just like on Lost when Ben's in the shackle and the Man in Black goes and they just like pop off. It's like, yeah, I
I
mean,
hate that
there's no,
shot.
I
I
mean, I
hate
hate it
that.
too, but I'm saying like there's no, you can't just be like, oh, maybe it was just in Ben's head. It's like, no, 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 the thing popped off.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, I'm not, you can't really reasonably believe that's just a coincidence or something. Like, what?
Yeah.
It just happened to unlock when he was having a hallucination. Like, no, 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 no. Right?
Yeah.
Will there come a moment in the show where there's a thing where you cannot explain it away? I mean, I think the birds were like verging on that, but they did like offer a potential explanation for it. So the bear is weird too. I don't know if they really offered an explanation for that. There was this whole thread in season one about like what's wrong with the animals, like what's going on with the animals. They haven't really talked about that this season, even though there was a weird scene with the moose. I don't know if that counts or not, because like maybe that's just normal behavior. Like, you shot at me, I'm gonna charge your ass. Like, I don't know, was it supposed to be weird? I'm not sure, but let's just say they haven't focused on it the same way they did last season. So I don't know. But then the birds, so whatever. I don't know, but none of that stuff is definitive enough.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's still room for the show to just tell us what they want to tell us about, how much is in characters' heads slash justification for their actions, which I think especially with the Thaisa situation, how much of this is actually another being taking you
right.
over versus how much of this is, you've just got this part of you that wants to do these
Yeah.
things
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like slipping into a fugue state
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Just like a purely psychological condition
Yeah.
that this other personality, it's basically multiple personalities. Like that's, you know, I don't know how real that is, but that's definitely a TV fiction thing that has been explored before, and where it
Yeah.
doesn't have to come from some outside force or be influenced by some
Yeah.
evil thing from the woods or whatever. It
Yeah.
just can go on in your head.
Sort of a Dr. Jekyll and
you
Mr.
know
Hyde.
I mean, it is insane that she's got this side of her that would cut off her own dog's head and put it on an altar. I mean, that's really that's that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's
You
a
know,
lot.
compared to like what Lottie's doing, like that feels like way over the top.
Well,
In terms of like coping with coping with the past and and what they went through in some way. Like it's like that's anyway. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a point of the show. It's something I like about it, that it really lets you it really lets you decide how you want to think about it, and it allows you, if you want, to go either way or sit on the fence with them, like, and I'm more sitting on the fence. Like I'm happy to sort of indulge either point of view at this point.
yeah, I'm sitting on the fence because I've been burned by stuff before.
Yeah. I'm also sitting on the fence because I'm not convinced that they'll ever get off the fence.
Yeah, and that is one of the ways that I've been burned. Yeah.
What I mean, it's not impossible. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but
Yeah, I talk a big game about mysteries being better than answers, but like everyone, and I stand by that, but like everyone, I do want answers. I just,
yeah,
it's the anticipation, it's the wondering.
definitely,
So,
definitely. I mean, the show's going somewhere, so yeah, I don't know what form that's really going to take,
yeah.
especially the present day stuff, because like whatever happened in the past happened, but like to me the real question is, where is the present day story going? What are they, because that I think that's ultimately going to be the focus of like where the series tries to end up, and what
Yeah.
they try to say ultimately, so that's kind of what I'm paying attention to most in terms of the overall theme of the show, because I think it's clearly going to be reflecting on what happened in the past, but what happened in the past is over in the future, so it can't be the end point.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so anyway, that I mean, yeah, that was a long discussion of that, but basically, she tells the story. The upshot is, like, if you believe it works, it can work. That's a placebo effect, and they both say they're going to keep going to the circle.
Yeah.
Okay. So Travis tries to get Javi to drink something for good vitamin C. I don't know what the fuck is that. What is this, like, mystery vitamin C soup? Like, what is that? Like, what could that possibly be?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know.
Is it me? All right. Anyway, Travis says he understands Javi running away that night. Yeah, you fucking better. You almost fuck your favorite Lottie gave the head nod for you to get your throat slit. You need to fucking deal with that yourself. Anyway, whatever. That's me talking. No one said that in the scene. And not talking, but he wants to know where he was, Javi, that is. Lottie listens in. There's a notable shot of Lottie listening in. Nat says he just needs time. Travis reveals that he knows about the ruse with the pants and the blood and all that stuff.
Right.
Nat admits it. They don't even try to like have a discovery moment or whatever. She's like, "Yeah, I did it." But it makes no sense that he's alive. It's like the best defense I think that she can really have. Travis is mad. Maybe he would have found him sooner if they hadn't done the ruse.
Which
Like,
is bullshit.
by what? By what? A day? You seriously think it would have made that much
You were
difference?
looking for him for
It's
months
been
at this
months.
point.
Yeah, this is a bad
And of
argument.
course we find out later that he was kind of hiding from them.
Yeah. And then Travis leaves the cabin and Lottie follows. We don't actually find out where that goes,
We don't.
but that's where they chose to end the scene.
That's really end the
So,
scene.
Travis and Lottie is clearly a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the point is, but there's multiple scenes about Travis and Lottie, so it's got to be going somewhere, and of course we know where he ends up. So,
Yep.
and in his time of need, he called Lottie. So
Yep.
anyway, something happened. She's very forgiving, that Lottie. I mean, I'm sorry. Um, Actually, what I meant was, Travis is very forgiving.
Oh, yes, that makes a lot
Uh,
more sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that, like, he, like I said, he's calling Lottie, and yet she was like totally cool with him getting his throat slit at that point.
Yeah.
So clearly he let that go, even though he acknowledges later, or was it here? Anyway, yeah, it was here actually. where he acknowledges like, oh yeah, I understand why you ran away,
Yeah, yeah. This
but like,
this is the first time, I think you already said this, but this is the first time that he mentions the craziness of that night.
yeah,
Although pretty obliquely. I mean, I guess they
yeah,
were all on shrooms.
like, yeah, a lot of people did a lot of things they regretted that night. Okay, so like, you just need to let it go,
That's totally what he sounds like. It's such a good impression.
it's just like, it's just, I don't know, if it didn't like, if literally like the most disturbing thing that happened that evening didn't directly involve the potential murder of
Yeah.
Travis, like it'd be easier for me to let it go. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like, did he forget? Like, I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
Shroom. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, yeah, don't do drugs, right?
It's just like that ad with the
Clearly the
brain and the
subtext.
frying egg.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh, another classic
Another
90s
classic 90s
reference
reference.
that kids today don't even understand. What that weird thing in the pan? What does it mean? I don't
Yeah,
understand
they
it.
don't even have eggs
They don't
anymore.
know what eggs are
No,
anymore. No
it's a
one, no
shame.
one's heard of an egg in 2023.
It's such a shame.
All right. Anyway, okay. So we go back to the present day. We're at Lottie's cabin. Um, I say Lottie's cabin. It's Lottie's camp, is what I really mean.
Indeed.
We will go to Lottie's cabin, but not right now. So Nat and Lisa are projecting negative thoughts. That's the activity they're on apparently.
Doesn't sound like a fun
But
activity.
project your negative thoughts onto me. Like, really? Okay. Lottie comes over and asks Nat to go deeper. We see her cut hand from the previous
Mhm.
episode.
What'd you do there?
Yeah. Oh, I cut myself shaving. Like, all right, fine.
Sure you did,
Um,
Lottie.
all right, Lottie.
All right, Lottie.
Um, Nat asks for a minute before going into the black recesses of my soul.
I really wanted to see this activity. I wanted to see what the idea was behind
Yeah,
this.
it's contrived that we actually never get to see it. Although I guess you could say that the scene with Lottie later is like sort of along these lines, even though it's also this like hypnosis, but
Right.
it is going back to a dark time for her. So
Hmm.
it's sort of, I don't know.
Oh, that's what I was picturing, like, okay, fork girl. Let's see. Um, you're always falling off the wagon because you're horrible. I was imagining, like, is it your negative self-talk? You're supposed to externalize your negative self-talk to see how
Mm-mm-mm.
ridiculous it
You mean
is.
more literally, like,
Yeah,
how does this
I'm
play out?
just curious about the theory of action of
Yeah,
this particular theory of change, I guess, for this
yeah,
method. But
yeah.
anyway, maybe I'm getting too in the weeds.
Well, you are in the weeds, but the weeds is where we live, so it's totally fine. I just have no idea, so
Yeah,
I don't even know
yeah,
what to
that's all right.
speculate, but I think maybe we'll see it later, maybe Misty will do it, who knows, but we don't find out here, so
Misty would be a perfect cult member, and I guess we're gonna get to see her
we're gonna
being
get
the
to see it.
perfect
We're
cult
gonna, yeah,
member.
is she gonna be promoted? Is she gonna, is like,
Back in the day, I don't think she's a perfect cult member anymore because
oh,
of her
okay.
connection to. No, I think she would be if it weren't for the baggage with Lottie. I think Lottie's gonna see her and be like, "Get the fuck
I
out."
was just wondering if like it's gonna be some weird thing where like she insinuates herself, maybe genuinely, maybe not, and like supplants Lisa as the number two of the camp. I don't know. Anyway, just envisioning some possible
I guess it
futures.
could happen.
Just saying, just saying. I'm throwing it out there in case it happens. Then I'll look like a
Yeah,
genius.
no, that's your
Anyway,
trick.
it is literally. Okay, so so she excused herself to go sneak into Lottie's cabin again. But this time she's interrupted again and someone's here to see her. Oh my god, who could it be? It's Misty and Walter. And Misty is shocked to find out that Lottie's running this camp. What? Nat tries to turn them away and just leaves them at the gate. And we'll come back
Yeah,
to
and
that later.
Nat has never been so happy to as she is here to be a Lottie. I love it. It's like, no, I love it here. This is great. She's taking care of me, and I'm here voluntarily.
So like when I watched it again, my reading of this was I'm trying to sneak into Lottie's fucking cabin and
Right.
people keep interrupting me. Go away and let me sneak into Lottie's cabin. God
I
damn it.
see.
Like to
I
me
see.
that's how it came off.
Okay.
That it was just like Misty comes in and then now it's gonna be forever until I get
Yeah.
another chance to sneak into Lottie's goddamn cabin. And the next scene is her sneaking into Lottie's cabin. So anyway, that I feel like
Yeah.
that's I
Okay.
mean, I know she doesn't want to see Misty in general, but I feel like specifically it's like, God damn it, you right now,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
You know, whereas I
No,
feel
that
like
makes
other times it
sense.
would be like, God damn it, Misty, but what do you want? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, right, right. No, that makes sense because it's getting kind of Boonwellian at
It
this
you
point.
very much so. Yeah, it's kind of absurd how how long it takes to just get to this. They've already
But I'm
teased
sure
it in the
that
previous episode.
whatever she gets in the cabin is going to be well
Oh,
worth the
it's
effort.
gonna be so
It's going to be
interesting.
change everything.
Game changer, as they call it. All right. Yeah.
Much like Shauna's baby, it's going to change everything.
Oh God. All right. So then we go over to Ty and Van. We find out, that basically Ty told Van about the altar in the basement that she made. Van asked about a sleep doctor, and like Ty has this line that like when I watched it the first time I didn't understand, and when I watched it the second time I didn't understand. Like it's like she's joking. Like, do you remember what the line
Yeah,
is?
I think she's just being glib about like why she can't go to a sleep doctor because going to a sleep doctor, she would have to admit some of the things that have happened uh as a result of her sleep issues. That's my interpretation of the line.
It's just
It's like, oh yeah, and by the way, I sometimes I eat people or whatever she says. And it's I
I
don't
think
know
it's
about
something
that,
about
but
the dog, but um yeah, I just like I didn't understand. Okay, yeah. I mean, maybe you're right. I
I mean,
just
it's either an explanation of why she feels that she can't go to a sleep doctor, or that a sleep doctor wouldn't really be able to help her. You're looking at the script.
yeah. I just want to pull it up so I can see what this line. Yeah, here it is. Hey Doc, if I happen to mention sacrificing anything on an altar, well, just ignore that part, okay? Thanks. Like, I just don't understand, like, is the implication like the bad one's gonna come out and be like, I sacrifice a dog on an altar? Like, do you
Yeah,
really think the
maybe.
bad one would do that? Because you're not gonna say it. So I just didn't
The
understand,
bad
like,
one does have an instinct for self-preservation. I guess I don't really know what she has in mind for a sleep doctor, but I think the point is just that she hasn't sought professional help because of the extreme behavior, both on the island, in the woods and not in the woods.
yeah,
When she's in this state, like the situation just is not one where she feels like she can get help
right.
from a professional.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to accept that. I don't know. It just
You don't
the,
like it. You
the
don't like that
specific
line.
way she phrased it, it was just like, is that really the problem? Like, I don't know. It's like, why do you have to tell the doctor any
Yeah,
can't
but
you
I
just
think you're
say
being too literal with this. I mean, when people make these glib lines,
like I just feel like can't it be, I think about Nightmare on Elm Street, where like Nancy goes to the sleep doctor, right? And she goes to sleep and they're like monitoring what's happening when she's dreaming. And ultimately, like she comes out with the hat and stuff, and it's like, okay, whatever, blah blah blah, right? But like it's not like you know, it's not like she has to they didn't go in there and she didn't go in there and go like, yeah, there's this guy Freddy Krueger
right?
who my
Frederick.
parents killed a long time ago, and he's been haunting my dreams, and can you help me with that, doc? Like it's like You don't have to say that. Can't you just say I've been sleepwalking and it's caught, like it's got me in some dangerous situations and, can you like help me with that? Can't you just be vague? Like why do you have to be like, yeah, and I made an altar, LOL, like, like
I
what?
don't think the viewer is supposed to believe that Thaisa is acting responsibly in her own self care.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I do agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I just, anyway, it rubbed me the wrong way. It seemed like the wrong excuse. So, but yeah, maybe we're just not supposed to buy it, and like that's part of the point. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying I don't buy it, and we can move forward. Okay, so Ty wants to take a shower, but Van wants to talk. Nonetheless, she gives in and lets Ty get cleaned up, and we'll come back to that later. We go back to the cabin. Misty and well, Mistel are talking, taking the shit.
Miston.
Miston. It is technically Miston, but I feel like if everyone's called you Crystal for years, aren't you kind of Crystal now?
Yeah.
What's in a name?
Mm, indeed.
Anyway, so Misty and Crystal slash Kristen are taking the shit bucket to the toilet. The toilet
Which
is,
appears to be the precipice.
yeah, where Ty went in what her early sleepwalking
Yeah.
state, where
So
Van followed her
maybe
and
the
tackled her
bad
there.
one was just taking her there to take a shit.
It's like, is that a clue that she shit in the pee bucket? Like
Wow.
I'm just saying.
You are reaching there and I like
I
it.
I am reaching.
She is not the one who shit in the
I
pee
don't really
bucket.
believe that. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna know who shit in the pee bucket, but anyway, whatever. I also want to know who took the bear meat. Will we get either answer? I have no idea. Anyway, so they're taking the shit bucket to the toilet, which is something that Crystal admits she doesn't actually always do completely. She admits that she actually just dumps it in the woods, like, before they actually get to the cliff, the toilet where they throw it over. Like, that's the official place, but she's like, I get lazy and I just dump it over here or whatever. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, until the summer, I'm sure it's fine. Like,
Ugh,
whatever.
yeah,
Who's
that's
gonna
a
know?
thought.
You know, I mean, animal shit in the woods. Like, I'm sure it's fine. Anyway, there's not like that many of them.
Yeah, that's true.
um, it's not like
Yeah,
you
and they're
go
not
to the
even eating
woods and
that
you're like,
much.
oh my god, overwhelming shit smell. Like.
Yeah, I don't really have a sense of how far away they are from the camp at this
Yeah,
point.
I don't either. They don't. I don't know if they make that
But I
clear.
don't disagree, and I think it's a little bit absurd that in this horrible winter that they're experiencing, they're still walking all this way because it does seem to be a long way to dump out their shit bucket.
Yeah,
But maybe this is not the most interesting thing to talk about.
it's probably, yeah, it's at least partially a contrivance for where the story's going.
Y-
So here we go. They're trading secrets. What could
Oh
possibly go
God,
wrong?
it's so awful
Um,
watching it unfold.
they come to the cliff from Ty sleepwalking. This is apparently the toilet. Crystal admits that her name isn't actually Crystal. It's Kristen, but she didn't tell anyone because she wanted to fit in.
Crystal the Pistol.
Crystal is just like Misty in that
She could be
way.
Kristen the Piston.
I
These
know,
are
right?
awesome thing.
Why not?
Crystal the Pistol's cooler
It
though.
is totally. This leads Misty to finally admit
Oh,
that she destroyed the what she refers to as emergency transmitter. I really, honestly, I didn't until she said this. I didn't know for sure what we were supposed to think that thing was that she destroyed. She calls it an emergency transmitter. Crystal is shocked, and this is when the fun time's over because she's like, "You did what? You
yeah.
did what? You
It's a
you're the reason we didn't get rescued? Are you fucking serious? Like, LOL, bestie. Fuck you. You're crazy. What's wrong with you? Like, and I think that this is the moment when I go, okay, she's got to die now because I'm not convinced that any of the survivors actually know. Otherwise, you think one of them would have killed Misty by now. Like,
yeah, that's your
you
next
were the
tweet.
reason we had to go through all that? Because, like, for a moment you felt needed? Are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
It's a great scene, a long time coming, and it's really well acted by both of them.
Yeah, the funny thing is that like present day Misty really doesn't seem troubled by the fact. I mean, I feel like the subtext in this scene is, they're telling secrets to each other, and Misty feels inspired by this revelation about Crystal's name to tell that, it feels like there's an implicit admission there that it does bother her a bit, and she wants to be able to say it out loud to someone. She wants to unburden herself of this knowledge that she's kind of at least partially responsible for why they haven't been rescued. And she thinks that things have gotten far enough with Crystal that she'll like understand. I think it's
Yeah.
because of the context of I didn't want to tell anyone it wasn't my name because I thought it
I
was
wanted
cool
to
that I
fit
have this
in,
nickname and I wanted
right?
to fit in. Yeah, like
I
that's
did
the
something to
context.
fit
Like,
in too.
oh,
I
you'll
also did something to feel
understand
like I
because you
belong.
took, and it's like, yeah, but what I did didn't really matter that much, did it, Misty?
Yeah, the
Anyway,
stakes are completely different.
yeah, it's like you understand that's not the same thing. Um,
Yeah, you feel it coming. You know it's coming as soon as it's like, let's tell each other secrets.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
my God. But
And
it's
they're at a cliff, and it's like, oh boy, here we
yeah.
go. So Misty tries to play it off, like, oh, I was just kidding.
Get you going. I
LOL.
wish you could have seen your
I gotcha.
face.
I gotcha.
Oh my
But
God.
Crystal doesn't buy it at all. And she steps to the edge of the cliff and she's got her back turned. And Misty threatens her, like, you better not tell anyone or I will fucking kill you. And then Crystal just accidentally falls off the edge of the cliff
She steps
to
back
her
too
death.
far to get away from
I
her.
was so sure that Misty would actually push her, but that's not what happened. She really just like kind of got backed into the edge. It's like they didn't quite want to go
Yeah.
that far to have Misty do the murder. It was
Yeah.
like she's going to threaten the murder. She's going to be responsible for the murder, but she isn't going to just literally do the murder.
Hmm.
It's like, you know, they don't want to push it quite that far. She's gonna feel bad about it, she's gonna feel responsible, but yeah, anyway, it's still like there's still some distance between that and what she did with Jessica Roberts, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Um like for real, like, I'm directly responsible for your death.
Yeah.
you know but she did threaten, and yeah, it's a very intense scene, and it's definitely, I think this is something I'm gonna call this catharsis for the audience, because I do feel like it serves its purpose, because I've seen this in TV shows a lot where characters walk around with a secret and they unburden their secret to a character who won't live for very long. So, like, consequentially in the show, it doesn't really matter, but the audience gets the satisfaction of like
Yeah.
having the character say their secret out loud,
Yeah.
because it's something that they've been wanting to happen.
Yeah.
Like Locke in Lost, like tells Boone that he used to be in a wheelchair, like shortly before he dies. The same
Right.
episode where he gets in the plane where that leads to his death, right?
Right. You want to see someone's reaction to the information.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, he never gets to talk to anyone about it. And actually, to go all the way to the end of the show, and I think such characters as Jack Shepard and Kate Austin still don't know that that happened.
Wow.
Like, I don't think they ever knew, which is kind of crazy. A few characters found out about it, but I don't think a lot of the characters actually ever knew that that happened. Like, for example, Sawyer found out about it indirectly through his interactions with Anthony Cooper and that whole plot that
Right.
involved Locke. Like, so he knew. Maybe he told Kate at some point, but it had to have been off screen. And maybe he told Jack at some point, but again, it had to have been off screen. It was never acknowledged. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a funny thing where I feel like this show's on that kind of path where Misty did this fundamental thing, more fundamental than Locke's thing, actually. It's not like Locke being able to walk again led to them not being rescued. Like, it's not like Locke having been in a wheelchair had something to do with their not being rescued. But
Yeah.
it's like they don't like Misty, she's clearly an outcast, blah blah blah, but it's like they're not liking of her seems like not in proportion if they actually know that, they possibly could have avoided perhaps like all of the worst of it
Right.
if it weren't for Misty. Perhaps all of it, you know. Um,
Yeah, aside from the crash
if they, yeah, if
victims.
like
Yeah.
if they had been rescued, like I mean all of it in terms of the cannibalism
Right.
and even the doom coming, you know, like
Yeah.
all that stuff, like the craziest stuff that happened just beyond the basic
Yeah.
crash. Obviously Misty didn't cause a crash,
Right.
so she's
Or
not
did she?
she's not responsible for that part of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think like it's like in a way I feel the satisfaction of having her say it out loud on screen, but in a way I'm also like, but I'm also frustrated that I know this is a death sentence for the character she's saying it to.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that we know Crystal didn't survive. If Crystal survived, you know Misty be hanging out with her. She's so desperate for a friend in the
Right.
present day. Like there's no way they wouldn't be hanging out if Crystal made it. So it's like, well, she's gonna have to die at some point. This is a very logical point for that to happen. So it's just, yeah, it's just impending doom hanging over the whole scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is you know, fairly momentous. And I mean, how long before they Misty actually like goes back and tells a lie about what happened, you
Yeah.
know, and she's sort of like covered up by snow later. So, you know, like how long will it be before they actually find her and eat her? I mean, I guess like she'll be preserved by the fact that she's out there in the freezing cold.
Well, she's done. Yeah. Right.
But I'm just sort of wondering what.
They do go to where she. I mean, they go to the spot where her body is to dump out.
Yeah, I guess that's bad news too, right? You don't want to dump a bunch of shit over something you're gonna eat later, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how much snow is really going to fall here. I mean, it's super windy and it's whiteout conditions, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
They made it look like, but yeah, they make a lot of things look like a lot of things. So
Well,
I agree. I don't think we can know for sure, but I'm just curious what the upshot of this is gonna be.
yeah.
Like, when will they discover the body? When will they eat her? Et cetera, et cetera. Because it just seems inevitable that they will.
Right, because she could have just been like, she fell off a cliff. But no, it's like, we got separated. I don't know where she
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And which is like, okay, great. Let's go out and risk our lives
Yeah.
searching for someone who you know is dead.
They're clearly, yeah, like they're not gonna go. I
They're
mean,
not
they were
gonna.
just like standing on the porch hoping they came back. Like they didn't really even
Well, they
go.
wouldn't even, yeah, they would get immediately lost.
Yeah.
They're not
So I
Marines
don't
or
think they're going
something.
out to search her, at least not right now. I mean, maybe they do it later, but
Right.
yeah, I it's just like I feel like there's a progression here where you know, like that podcast. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the name of this podcast. I it's maybe it's Yellowjackets Hive. I don't know. It might not be. I apologize if that's not you, and you're welcome if it is you. Anyway, who had this phrase like soft cannibalism about
Right.
Jackie, you know, and I feel like if they eat Crystal, Kristen, whatever, it's gonna be like an escalation because she wasn't murdered so that they could eat her, and she also wasn't literally murdered. She was just sort of threatened into a dangerous situation that led to her death, you know. And so it's
It's a
definitely
gentle escalation.
it's beyond what happened to Jackie, but it's not full on murder then eating, and it's also not full on murder in order to eat, which
Right.
would be like the full on pit girl thing that we open the show with.
Right.
So I just to me it seems logical that they would do a like a baby step progression, you know, and that therefore that means they should eat Crystal. I mean, you know, they want food in general. Misty knows that too.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Misty contrives some scenario where they find her, you
Oh,
know,
for sure.
and she's like, and then she's gonna have to eat her friend. Oh man, I guess Shauna already did it, so it's not out of the realm of possibility for the show.
Yeah.
I mean, Shauna was better friends with Jackie than she was with Crystal. She barely even knew her before the crash. So anyway, fairly momentous scene, but
Pretty big. Yeah.
I suppose we can move forward if you're
I think
okay.
let's.
So go back to the present. Misty and Walter are in a car. Misty is shocked that she didn't know about Lottie having this camp and such. Walter wants her to move on.
Yeah.
Like Natalie doesn't want your help. Why don't you just move on? Like,
Oh,
do
you
you?
really do not know
I was gonna say, like,
Kristen.
how well do you know Misty? Because that's not a good read here. Misty thinks that Nat is being manipulated by Lottie, or maybe it's just an excuse that she wants to believe so she can hang in. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's like she's convincing herself. There's several levels here. Anyway, Walter reveals at this point that he knows that Misty lied about Adam Martin, the lie she told about his mother and stuff. She's dead apparently. And he basically thinks that either she killed Adam Martin or for a friend, or she had something to do with his death. That's what he suspects. Of course, we know that that's pretty true. She certainly wasn't responsible for the murder, but she was definitely involved in the disposal of the body, very, very directly. Um, and Walter basically says she's like a serial killer in a good way, but he likes her regardless.
Oh man.
So yeah, I don't know if she really wanted to hear that. So she gets out of the car and says he needs to go. She grabs her stuff and he drives away.
Who
And
would have thought that it would be, you know, verboten to compare someone to a serial
no,
killer?
I mean in a good way. What? It's very
Yeah.
nice. And he talks about his grandmother or something, like killing his grandfather and then
Oh,
like writing
right.
him from jail or something. He's like, you're like her.
She
It's
wrote me every day
great.
from jail. She
She
was
was
so
so
nice. She was
thoughtful.
such a nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here we have it. We had speculated that he knew more than he was letting on. Uh and I think he still knows more than he's letting on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in this case, like he's talking about following up on a lie that she told him on the boat. So I feel like that
Right.
doesn't really count as knowing more than he let on. Like it makes sense that he would research a claim. He says, and this is where I have a question actually. I have to pause for a second. Citizen detective, okay? All of you citizen detectives out there, all right? What's your deal? What's your deal? I just want to know.
That's the
Like,
question.
yeah, the end. Thank you. Good night. No, I okay. Like, I just uh, obviously Misty is, she's got some unique moral lines, right? And obviously Walter is shown to do that here, but it just makes me wonder about the citizen detective community. Like, is this an accurate portrayal? Is it just about the satisfaction of the hunt? Like, to me, in my head, the citizen detective thing is no, we really want to find out and therefore hold people responsible for the bad things they do. Like, we want to report this to the authorities and, lead to convictions for these like serial killers who weren't caught or you know like I get
No,
I feel like
no,
that's like a primary motivation for most citizen detectives
no,
is to
no. It's to have a podcast.
well yeah but like like it seems like it seems to me like a lot of them are driven by this desire to have the people responsible like held responsible for the bad things they do and like it's just weird to me that he's like, no, it's fine that you like killed a guy and like whatever. Like, it's like, wait, so like you could find out like who a murder and you just be like, oh, whatever. It's fine. I don't know. It
Well,
raised questions for me.
just in case some of your listeners are citizen detectives, I feel like we need to point out that this is just one person. We don't need to take him as representative of all citizen detectives. So for this guy, getting close to Misty, getting to know her is better than, calling the cops with whatever hunch you have. Now, if we find out later that he really is kind of a Moriarty type and he's actually got some bigger scheme beyond just he's got a crush on her and is kind of nuts, so doesn't care that she has killed uh you know I lost the structure of that sentence, but then at that point we can sort of reevaluate his behavior in this scene.
It's just, yeah, I agree that like, you know, the two characters that are presented as citizen detectives don't have to be the typical example of such character, like I mean, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying for real citizen detectives are like this or that the show's even saying that. I'm just saying what drew them to be citizen detectives? That's my question.
Yeah,
If
not
they don't actually
yeah,
care
not an
about
interest in justice.
yeah, like it's just to me it just raised the question like, what is the draw then? You
Yeah.
just like finding out shit and knowing it for your keeping it to yourself? Like I just find that a bit
Yeah.
odd, but
Yeah,
maybe that's just
or
me.
or for Reddit, they just, they want the thumbs up.
They want the thumbs up and the likes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I don't know, it was a weird scene for me, but that's where we leave things with Walter for now. So
For now.
we'll see what befalls Walter later, and Misty probably sooner. Okay. So then we go over to Shauna going to the motel to meet Randy while Kevin with a Y and Matt with two T's watch. Shauna and Randy discuss the plan. Randy tells Shauna about Natalie and the FBI thing, right? So Shauna at this point
Mm,
finds out that he was quite. So this is a little side point in the scene because it's not even the thing, but Shauna does know, like, what?
yeah.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. What's going on there? That's weird, right? So I think that's something to pay attention to going forward because I think things need to coalesce, right? We're at the halfway point in the season, and this is at least pointing a way for Shauna to get involved in some of the antics that some of her fellow jackets, if
Fellow
you will, are
jackets.
up to right now. Um, so then Shauna gives Randy a condom to jerk off into. All right, cool. So then we move on to unless you have a comment you'd like to make
I
here.
said it all earlier.
Okay. So we go back to the cabin. Shauna sleeps, and Lottie creepily sits there whispering, "You're gonna change everything."
Yeah,
This is the creepiest Lottie thing in this episode. Like,
definitely.
don't even, you're gonna change everything. Yikes.
Yeah,
Anyway,
don't act like it's ridiculous for Shauna to be freaked the fuck out by
I
it.
totally agree. Shauna freaks out, and Ty's like, she wasn't hurting anybody. Yeah, okay, she wasn't hurting anybody. That doesn't make it not creepy. What the fuck? Oh, it's okay as long as you're not hurting anybody. Like, you could say all kinds of shit and be like, well, I'm not hurting anybody. Like, like, no, she's clearly hurting Shauna. Shauna's freaked out by this. What are you
Right,
talking about? Like,
right.
this is bullshit. It seems like it's implied that she's become more lenient towards Lottie because she's been participating in the circle and because it's helped her. And it's
Yes.
sort of like she was very Lottie skeptical previously to this. And
Yes.
and so it's like it's a turning point. And it's part of a point they want to make here. So anyway, Shauna leaves the cabin. We'll come back to that later. Um, in the present, Ty finds oxycodone in Van's cabinet in the bathroom. She asks Van about it, and Van lies about it and pretends to throw it away. I say all that like we knew, but I think most of us at least suspected.
Yeah.
Because, uh, ain't one of them yellow jackets who's like healthy and normal. So, the idea that like Van would just be living her best life having no problems at all was pretty unlikely.
Right,
So,
right. She's running an unprofitable video
yeah.
rental and yeah, popping
Yeah.
oxycodone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
do it, kids.
There's clearly some lingering issues. Ty tries to talk about their relationship, but Van rejects it. Van still wants to help though and asks Ty to ask for help. And Ty lays out what happened, all all the shit that's going on. It's a lot.
Teresa has never asked for help from anyone in her whole life.
But she still doesn't want to ask for help, fearing what might happen to Van. It's like, yeah, but you're here, so you're at least implicitly asking for
It's so
help.
manipulative.
And Van's just asking you to say it, and you still want to say it anyway. Van consoles her. That's where we end things. It reminds me of that scene with Simone, like where they kind of reframed it later, and maybe we're supposed to believe that, like, in a way, she's always like being slightly manipulative, like she's not she's has difficulty just being fully on the level, about
Hmm.
like what she wants and needs and is like always kind of dancing around the point and through her actions reveals what she really wants. Anyway,
Overachievers.
yeah, I guess so. I guess so. We'll come back to that later. Shauna ruffles the bed in the motel, waits for Randy. Randy's having some trouble making it happen in the condom, and
I can't
notices
imagine that turning the light on and off again is helping. I don't know what the thought is there,
there's
but
no reason why that should help.
he's a poor kid. Poor
I
guy,
know.
he's lost.
He's so lost and he has no idea why he's even doing this. And, and like he goes in there and Shauna's like, you better not think about me. And it's like, yeah, this is really, it's really not an ideal circumstance. Anyway, he there's a shot where he notices some lotion on the little thing, little like whatever there in the bathroom, some like motel lotion, I guess. So that may be a clue about where this plot's going. I don't know. We'll have to find out.
Well,
Stay
yeah, if I were a
tuned.
betting man.
I would say that might be a solution. Looking at him in the face. Anyway, Nat finally after rejecting Misty, gets into Lottie's cabin and goes through her little secret cabinet and finds a phone, and there's a gun in there, like a rifle, and some files. And she looks at the files and like thumbs through them and then storms into the meeting with righteous indignation. And this is where you know that this is going to fail, because the way she's acting in the scene, it's like this is a way to approach acting in a scene where your whole point's going to fall apart.
Indeed.
It's like you just know, like, this can never work. It reminds me of, I remember there's this scene in the Flash Sideways and Lost where I think it's right after Desmond hits Locke with the car, and like Ben comes out and he's like, I'm making a citizen's arrest. It's like
Mm,
there's a certain way that actors play these scenes where you just know
utter
that the
confidence.
point is going to be like your mission is going to fail. Your whole point is going to be undercut really soon here.
Yeah.
And yeah, Desmond just ends up punching him. So what happens here is that she says Lottie's scamming everyone, and she has reports about their personal lives, and she has their phones and bank information. And Lottie's like, yeah, they already know. And they confirm, yeah, we know. Thanks.
Yep.
Lottie asked the others to leave, and they all leave. There's like 30 of them or 40 of them in there, and they all leave. It's
Could
like,
we
couldn't,
have the room?
couldn't you just go somewhere? But no,
No.
Lottie wants a room. Lottie's gonna get the fucking room.
Yeah,
Um,
cult leaders don't leave.
yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely an exercise of power there. Lottie finally brings up, this is such a weird context, right? As soon as this happens, she brings up Travis's note and what it meant. And she says she wants to know what he was going through. And Nat says, you started it. And Lottie says, maybe that's true, but she needs to know, and she has a plan to figure it out. And this is where I'm like, why did you say this earlier? You told a whole ass story about what happened to Travis, and you were just like, and he left you that note. That's all she said about it. I talked about it, right? Go back to that podcast where we talked about that scene where she talked about what happens to Travis. And I was like, this is weird. Like, she acknowledges the note, but she doesn't say a word about it. And here she acts like it's like super important to her, but it's been like multiple days at this point. And you haven't said a word. All right. Anyway, sorry. It's just like, this is where I get that lost vibe of like, oh, I just woke up this week and I realized I care about something. Like, because it's like, it doesn't make sense to me that like there was a point where this could have come up, and it feels like mere contrivance that she didn't bring it up then because they weren't ready to address it at that point. And
Yeah.
suddenly now she's gonna act like it's a big deal. I don't know. I mean, maybe we're supposed to believe that her hallucinations like have brought about this extra desire to know like what was going on with Travis, because clearly he was experiencing some vaguely similar thing. He's like trying to make contact with the spirit of the woods or whatever. And like maybe that's like, I don't know. But then she had hallucination back then too, right? At the very scene where this happened. So that doesn't even add up. So I don't know. Whatever. I'm happy because I want to know what the note was about too. So they got me. All right. So fine. But I don't know. This just struck me as weird. Like, said this anyway.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to pick this back up. So, since that scene where we see what Lottie saw the night that Travis died, which they put that in the previously on, or at least part of it in the previously
Yeah, yeah,
on.
yeah,
You know, this idea that he was trying to reconnect with the spirit of the woods, and then in this scene that is about to come to uh this idea that Nat also believed that the spirit of the woods had come back to the their contemporary lives with them. Um it's really fascinating, and this line, and it feels like it's been so long since we saw the episode in which Lottie tells Nat about what happened that night. And so
yeah. I
when
think it was episode 2.
yeah. And so when Nat is like, because you set him down that path, or you started this or whatever, and she's like, maybe that's true. It's like, let's poke at that a bit, and let's try, like, I want to see this show from Travis's point of view. You know what? I
Yeah,
know we get a little scene here, but I want to know more about what this, because I don't know. It is just, it's a reminder of the absolutely traumatizing and incomparable experience that these people would have faced coming back from this situation.
yeah,
Even if there wasn't this supernatural force that either does exist, or they just really strongly believe that it exists, so for them it exists.
yeah,
It's like, wow. Like, you made the point about how they're all really badly adjusted as a result of what happened to them, but yeah, definitely, of course you would be.
yeah, yeah. No, it's very reasonable. It's very reasonable, and there's also a part of me that's like screaming like the magic box on Lost, like, the evil spirit of the woods that came back with them is a metaphor, John.
Well, yeah.
It feels like even if there is some reality to it, it's also a metaphor. Like, it's at least a metaphor, you
I mean,
know?
it's been presented as a spiritual kind of thing, and spirituality is not physically anchored to a place.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
We'll see.
yeah. But I do think there's, I talked about it before, but I do think there's this like flash forward kind of quality of the way the show's constructed, where there's an implication of this like tragic downfall for Travis specifically, like even more so than the other characters who have their own problems, but didn't quite take it as far as Travis did. That I feel like we'll have to see, as we go through this flashback. Like, I think we're going to have to see the progression that leads to him being in a place where, where he's back in the real world, and like he actually takes this idea to heart, like so much so that he ends up, killing himself accidentally, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, being willing to go that far already shows that you're in like a pretty desperate state.
Yeah.
Uh, but I also, another thing it reminded me of is like I kind of thought that there was a chance that when we saw Van again, then it would be kind of like what they did with Lottie, where they'd actually show us a little bit of the post rescue period, but they did
Same.
not do that.
Yeah.
So I think there is pretty, since they've broken that like barrier in the show, I think nonetheless, like I think there's a strong chance that we will see more of that time period. And that part for Travis as well would be part of the story,
Yeah.
of like whatever happened. So I think it is something that it's weird. It's like it's just like the Jack strung out like into season 3 thing, where like we have to see how like he actually gets there,
Yeah.
because Travis in the past is nowhere near that point
Right.
at this stage where we are in the show right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of story in the middle, that, I think over the course of these few seasons are going to give us. We got to get more of that. But the question is going to be, how to retain enough mystery so that uh telling us more about those years is going to feel worthwhile.
Yeah, it is tricky. It is tricky because Lost pushed past the right. They did one season that was all about the flash forwards and catching up.
Yeah.
then that was it. And then we just went forward, you know?
Yeah. And that
So
might be what they do here because
yeah.
it's just hard.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why I had the idea that if they want to preserve the fundamental structure of the show and not like do something as like wild as Flash Sideways or time travel, which I don't expect either of those things to happen in the show. Um, one way to go with it would be to actually lean into the post crash period
Yeah.
or rescue period
Yeah.
and actually carry forward. Like, so we're not cutting back to the woods anymore. We're cutting back to that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can keep the younger actors in the show. I just feel like that's, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
for sure what their plan is, but I feel like that's a way forward where they can still kind of
Yeah.
drag things out, if you will, for potentially 5 seasons. It seems to me like there's not enough story for 5 seasons of Woods, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they could do 5 seasons if they include After the Woods, you know, because there's a huge gap there. I mean, it's 25 years or so after the rescue,
Yeah.
the present day. So there's a lot that they can fill in there, and I don't think they'll cover all those years, of course, but I think there's enough. So anyway, I don't know, that's just a theory. I don't know for sure what they're going to do, but we'll see,
We'll see.
if you will. Okay, so then we go back to the cabin, and when I say the cabin, I mean the woods, of course. We get a woods shot because we're in the woods. Ty pursues Shauna in the
To make the
cold.
woods look
Yeah, yeah,
creepy,
that's clearly like creepy woods.
sinister,
Like you said earlier,
agentic.
implication, like did the woods bring the storm, blibbity blah. Um, Ty pursues Shauna in the cold. Shauna's mad that Ty took Lottie's side and joined the circle. Shauna's freaked out about the baby and that they're praying for her baby in a circle. Yes, yes, this is reasonable. This is reasonable. Like that's yeah, like you should have the right to object to that. Like have your circle, listen to your wind, right? But like this is my fucking baby. Like you don't.
Yeah, and look, if it were Laura Lee, if she'd survived, she would be praying in a circle for that baby. But it wouldn't be like a wood god that you just invented when we
Yeah,
crashed.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Like it would be fundamentally different.
But I think if I mean, it's different, but I think if she wanted to object to Laura Lee praying for her baby, it would be valid to do that. It would be a different context, and I definitely think it would be less creepy. But
Well, it's just that, in season one, before Laura Lee dies, they show her praying, leading the team in prayer before the game, before practice,
right,
even, and people
yeah,
go along with it.
yeah, yeah, and that makes me realize that, like, I guess there's an implication that, through their connection, like Laura Lee passed on the role of spiritual leader to Lottie,
Yeah,
and that was like part of what that baptism was about. I don't think I really understood that until just now. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good
yeah.
point. I did not. Wow. Wow. Like I understood that she wouldn't have put up with some of the shit that happened, so she was going to have to die one way or the another.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't realize that like that's really a big part of the function of how that works. Like anyway, I don't know. Thank you. That
Yeah.
was a revelation for me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Ty defends it since the circle, since it helped her with the sleepwalking, and Shauna has a contraction. I'm not sure. I mean, based on the way the episode ends, I'm gonna assume that's what's going on, but she's kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
whatever that is. I'm no like baby expert, so don't write me, don't at me, as the kids say. Um, something happens, okay?
Yeah. Let's call it a
I'm
contract.
safe to say
I think it looked like a contraction.
it felt like that's what it
Yeah.
was, but hey, whatever. Yeah. Then the wind starts up and they cover up and try to head back to the cabin.
Creepy, not normal wind.
Definitely not a normal wind. Or is it just a coincidence? All right, anyway. Um, Misty crawls down to where Crystal and Kristen, sorry, it's one person.
Just the one.
Crystal slash Kristen is what I meant to say. Or fell. She tries to administer CPR, but Crystal is clearly just dead. Blood just comes out of her mouth.
Ugh, it's horrible.
Misty cries and notices the winter storm building covering Crystal in snow, and she apologizes to her bestie. Yeah, so this is a shot where she's kind of, it looks like there's a lot of snow coming, but
Yeah.
I agree that like next week they could show like the snow's melting and like it's not even that anymore. Like, after the tie thing from last week, like I don't feel comfortable like drawing any like firm conclusions
Yeah.
about what's gonna happen next from a shot like this. Like,
Yeah.
anyway. Um, in the present, Shauna and Randy leave the motel room. Randy's back together with his wife, apparently. And this is where I say contrivance because he was sleeping at the motel before. And if he's sleeping at the motel room, then they can't go search it. And I feel like that's the only reason they write in that he got back with his wife so
Yeah.
that he leaves the fucking motel room.
Right.
Right? Because otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. Right? So,
Right.
anyway.
Right.
I'm convinced that's the only reason they did this. Okay.
Yeah.
So then Kevin, oh, I misspelled it. It's with a Y.
Yes.
Kevin and I default to the
Do
I.
you spell it with an A?
Kavan? No, I didn't
Kevin.
write it as Kavan. Kavan is a different name, okay?
It's a
Kavan and Matt watch, but Matt is still not convinced about the affair, rightly, of course. Matt wants to check the room. They go in to check the room. Kevin finds a condom. Matt picks it up and sniffs it, discovering that it's strawberry scented lotion. Matt celebrates.
I really think this is there's gonna be a line about the strawberry lube.
Oh, that's
We
interesting.
got
I didn't even
strawberry
think
lube,
about
now
the
we got
strawberry
strawberry scented
lube.
lotion.
That's I don't know how
I
that could possibly come up though, because
I don't know, but it's gonna. And I'm just gonna say Kevin with a Y says, oh, I know you're green, but don't you know that anything we find without a warrant is inadmissible? It's like, oh right, that's what is gonna happen with this case. Is that they're only ever gonna come up with inadmissible evidence.
right, right.
They are gonna know for
We're
sure.
gonna get Broadchurch season 2.
Yes, they're gonna know for sure that Shauna did a murder, and they're just not gonna be able to prove
Yeah,
it.
maybe that's the end point. I have another possibility that I want to
Oh,
bring up.
okay.
That I want to bring up. Let's see. When do I want to bring it up? I will bring it up after I describe this very scene we're on.
I see.
Okay. This is the last scene with Kevin and Matt. Bippity bop. Okay, right. So Matt sniffs it, discovers a strawberry scented lotion. Matt celebrates. Kevin astutely realizes this means that Callie lied, and therefore, Matt's been made as a cop. But Matt still thinks he's better, so he's gonna win somehow. Yeah. What's your plan now? Like, you're just gonna go question, or you're gonna find like what? Now that she know, like what? I just don't even understand. Like,
Well, we're gonna find out. I mean, that's clearly
you
setting
can't
up
go
for them.
undercover again. You can't shave your mustache and be like, "Oh, hi, I'm Gary." Like,
No, but he can continue to meet up with her and try to lure her into, you know, I don't know, just like playing her. I don't know. We're gonna find out though, because
we're gonna
that's
find out.
clearly setting up for
We're gonna
future
find out.
scenes.
Here's some thoughts I had. I think your thought that they can't build the case is perfectly logical. But I had another thought, which is that this Matt character might end up dead.
Well, that was my
And
previous thought.
and I was thinking that maybe Callie actually murders him.
Oh,
Just throwing it out
I
there.
like that.
Just throwing it out there. I feel like the way this season's been building the Callie character and the fact that she finds out that Shauna murdered this guy and like is actually fine with it, doesn't actually lies to the cops knowingly, once she realizes what's going on. Like yeah, like there was she wasn't saying that stuff because she wanted Shauna to be caught for the murder.
Right.
She was just mad Shauna was lying.
Right.
Right. And once she's honest, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna help you get away with this. And I just feel like there's a progression here that could end with her actually killing Matt.
It's a great theory.
I'm just throwing it out there
Yeah.
because it feels like a very real possibility. Now maybe she does it with Shauna, blah blah blah. I don't really see Jeff getting involved in a murder. So
No.
it's just hard for me to like if he's along for the ride, I feel like he's gonna be objecting the whole time. And so like they could play it that way too, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I like it.
It just feels to me like it could end up somewhere like that where he finds something incriminating, but he's killed, and like that Kevin can't prove what happened to him either, and
Yeah.
then they just, and he, maybe he suspects something's up, and I don't know. Because I feel like Kevin is more likely to survive than Matt is, since Kevin's
Yeah.
actually connected to the
Yeah.
Yellowjackets characters, and like Matt's just some rando they introduced this season.
That's just some D hole with
D-hole.
a terrible mustache.
do, do, you, do, you mean dickhole? Is that really what you're saying?
No, I don't know. That's just what I said.
I was just wondering what
Um,
D-hole meant.
I don't know, like like B male D hole. I don't know.
Okay.
He's a D hole. Don't think about it too hard.
Okay. All right, just checking. Just thought I had to check. Okay, so we'll see where that goes.
We will.
Back to the cabin. Ben looks at a sketch of a tree. I'm not really sure what it was. Honestly.
Yeah, it looks like like a network of tree roots, or
Did
maybe a
Javi
tree
make the sketch?
stump.
Who made the sketch? Where did the sketch come from?
Javi. They have.
Javi made the sketch.
Yeah.
Okay, that's logical because they did establish that he was doing like art shit, right? Because he was Adam, blah blah blah.
Right.
Okay. Um, there's people out there who still think Adam was Javi. I think that's like clearly not true for a wide variety of reasons. Anyway, I don't need to defend that point because that's like definitively not true. Okay. Anyway, I just think it's ridiculous what people will like buy into. Oh man.
They want to believe.
They want to believe. They always want to believe they're like 10 steps ahead of the show, And it's like, you can't fool me. There's people who don't believe Lottie's story either about what happened with Travis. And I just feel like, like you're barking up the wrong tree. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Like, I think that is the story. And the question isn't what happened to Travis. It's like, why did that happen to Travis? That's the question
I
you
tend
should
to
be
agree.
asking. Anyway, whatever. Okay. So Ben looks at a sketch, Javi sketch probably, of a tree. And then Javi just casually says, she told me not to come back. And Ben asks, who? And Javi says, my friend. Javi takes the sketch and walks away as Ben asks, who's your friend?
As the rest of America also asked.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. I'm sorry you're not going to make it because you're really asking the right questions here. And apparently you're the only one that Javi's willing to talk to. And it's like, yeah, this raises so many questions, including, of course, the one that Ben asks.
Yeah.
Did he have some hallucination or is there a real person out there? Who is, I mean,
Is it Lottie?
Yeah. Is it Lottie? Did Lottie know he was alive because she was beating him in the fort? Like, are we in for that kind of reveal?
Is it the bad one?
Is it the bad one? That's another point. That's interesting. She told me not to come back. Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting if Thais's bad one was like being helpful or like, I don't know. That's weird.
I mean, those were my two theories. Lottie.
Those are
or
valid
that
theories.
one.
I didn't even consider either one of those. So
Well, there's kind of both of them have problems. Thaisa's it has a couple of problems. One just being, what does the other one want? Which we've
however,
already
the
floated that.
comma,
But the bigger
her
problem is that Van should have, I don't know, Van's been following her. But anyway, go ahead.
right. That's a good point. It would have had to have been when she was going out without Van. But as a counterpoint, the search for the symbols that she was being led is what led to them finding Javi.
Correct.
That's a point in the favor that maybe the bad one actually was making some contact with Javi. And that's how she knew where he was, right? Like, simple answer. And then the other thing I like about the Lottie theory is another simple answer. I know he's alive because I'm meeting with him secretly, like that.
Yeah.
They could totally tell us that. That never even occurred to me. I really thought, like, well, either it's a hallucination or there's some other character living in the woods, some Rousseau type character that we're gonna meet, like.
I mean, we'll see.
I also wonder about why he talks to Ben here. Why is he, you know, now to be fair, Ben certainly was not participating in the Doom coming stuff when he ran
Yeah.
away. You
Yeah.
know, does he know also that Ben didn't eat Jackie? I don't know if he knows that much. Did he actually steal the bear meat? Has he been spying on them? How much does he know about what happened? If she told you not to come back, what are you doing stealing the bear meat anyway? Um, it's like, well, I had to eat. Like, okay, but she's told you not to come back. So what do you anyway? Um and also Travis, right? Travis didn't do anything bad that night. He was the victim that night, so it just seems like, why is he not willing to talk to Travis? I mean, you would think if he was going to talk to anyone, it would be fucking Travis, his brother. Like Ben, Coach Ben. Do you even know Coach Ben? Like, he wasn't on the team. He was just along because he was, related to the other coach. So it just doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is weird. Like, in a way I buy it, because it's like, yeah, if there's anyone here you can that's like a little more dependable, maybe it is Coach Ben. But like,
Yeah.
on the other hand, it's like, how does Javi know that? I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. And this is an enigmatic, very short scene that makes me wonder where this is going. And um yeah, I don't know, right?
Yeah, query your comment from earlier about how characters who are about to die get to hear information that the
Yeah.
rest of the people don't get to know
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
How
and
how
I
so
think
how long before Ben dies? Because we all
yeah.
know he will.
Yeah, I think it also makes sense to me that since Ben's not trying to make him talk, like
That's
child
part of it.
psychology,
Yeah, he never's
he's
like, why
trustworthy,
don't you
he's not
talk to
pushing
me?
him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, siblings have conflict
Yeah,
regularly, and we've seen these
yeah.
siblings have
We have
conflict earlier in
specifically.
the first season.
It's true. It's true. Fair point. These are all fair points. Okay, so I mean, hopefully we'll learn more later.
We've got
It
to.
was it was exciting to have Javi say any fucking thing at all, and it was extra exciting to have him say something as crazy as this. So I'm looking forward to what the fuck. How did you survive? How did you survive? All right.
It was
Anyway,
intriguing.
I need to know. I need to know.
We do.
All right. So then Misty arrives at the cabin with a lie that Crystal vanished. And then they realize, oh, Ty and John are still out there. Who's Crystal? No one even remembers. It's like, it's
Whoops.
like she just brought that up so they could realize this other thing. Oh, the people actually are characters on the show. Let's focus on that. Anyway, they yell for them. They go outside. Then we cut over to Sean and Ty. They're not sure which way they're going. Um, and then they kind of on the porch of the cabin, they start going into the morning circle ritual where, like, Lottie asks Van what she hears. And and they kind of, it's like they're coping with the situation by doing the thing from the circle.
It's like they're conjuring connection to the
um
rest of the group.
they hear the wind. And we also see Ty doing the same thing, where she's like focusing on what she's hearing. And we hear them back at the cabin repeating, I feel our friends coming back to us. And
Hmm.
that's where we leave things for now. We will probably come back to that later in the final scene of the episode. So for now, we go back to the present. Van and Ty are asleep on the couch. Van gets up and goes take an oxycodone from the trash. Suddenly, the bad one is behind her and kisses her. Van says, you're the other one, aren't you? What do you want? And the bad one says, this isn't where we're supposed to be. So the
Oh,
bad one
are
gets in
we
her
headed to cherry corners?
enigmatic single line, much like Javi's scene. Like, interesting. You said go to her, right? So, like, didn't she do the right thing? Wasn't she supposed to go to Van, or did she actually
Wait, no,
mean
she's supposed to
go
go
to
to Van.
Lottie?
No, she's supposed to go to Van, get Van, and then go to Lottie. Everyone's converging on Lottie.
Okay, okay. It's just weird. Like, she did what you said, and then it's like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. So you think they're going to Lottie? I mean, that was my thought too. Like, because it just seems like the most obvious thing, given the fact that, uh, in the same episode, like we already knew that Van. I mean, one interesting question is, does Van know about Lottie? Because Van was all up in Lottie's shit in the woods. Did she reject it at some point? And she's struggling with like addiction to oxycodone. You would think that's a perfect thing to go to Lottie for, and it's like, does she just not know, or did she specifically reject it? It just makes me wonder.
Yeah.
Presumably we'll find out, but there's something there. And also the fact that Ty is shown to be helped by Lottie in the past in the very same episode. So it's like, it's going back to your point. Like, what did I do before that helped me? Now she could have just done that on her own, but the more literal thing is literally go to Lottie's self-help camp.
Yeah, yeah.
you know like it's so logical that I would be shocked if that's not the case, if it's actually something else.
Yeah.
All right. um right. So then we go over to Lottie's camp. She uses a light to try to hypnotize Nat into remembering whatever she was right about in the note. And Nat remembers the last time she saw Travis alive. So at this point, we get a flashback with voiceover. There's a lot of quick cuts here, so I'm not going to attempt to describe every shot because it's just
Yeah.
like too scattered. But let me just try to summarize the gist here. So we see the two of them. I actually realized the second time, maybe you probably caught this the first time, that like the first thing she's like, I see a beach, but it's revealed that it's just a painting of a beach in a
Yeah.
room. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't catch that the first time. Anyway,
It's a
um,
psych out that is kind of weird because it doesn't give you anything, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it didn't matter at all. But
But
it's
it's kind
also a
of a
very
nice thing.
lost ass thing to
Hmm.
do. Like, yes, I was on a beach. Oh no, it was just a painting of a beach, and like,
Yeah, they actually do that on Lost by
yeah,
sitting
they
in
did
like
that exact thing.
a tour what am I, a travel agency.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, they did that type of thing many
Yeah.
times. So many
Right, the
times.
grapefruits
It was they went through a lot. Yeah, I mean the
or
Desmond thing at the
coconuts
beginning
or
of
whatever
season
it is. Yeah.
two, the Juliet thing at the beginning of season three.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was a classic move. Okay. Right. So we see the two. They're in some room. I guess it's like a motel room somewhere. I mean, I feel like that's the implication.
Yeah. It's a motel
Um,
room.
they do some cocaine. I guess it's cocaine based on what happened earlier in the show. Um, uh, Nat passes out,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Well, I think it's because don't they have a naloxone? It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
they what?
I think it's I think it's like an opioid thing,
Oh,
because don't they administer naloxone when they send out the cops? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
oh, really? I didn't catch that at all either time. I was just assuming because she definitely had cocaine
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah,
first season,
yeah,
when Misty comes in, like that was definitively
yeah, for
cocaine.
sure.
So it just made sense. And they're doing lines, which is like, movie
Hmm.
code for cocaine. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
If you caught some line that implies something, that's fine because it's not really the point. But
it's not the point.
I just wanted to explain because it's drugs, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's drugs they're snorting. Okay, so Nat passes out. Travis freaks out. In the present, this is so confusing. In the present, Nat sees the crash site. In the more past, this is really hard to describe.
yeah,
So, I guess they're saying that she saw it back then in the middle past when she was with
Yeah.
Travis in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. She gets high and she sees a vision of the crash
Yeah.
site.
Like I wasn't sure if she was seeing that in the room with Lottie or if she was seeing that in the room
No,
with
in the room with
Travis,
Travis, and that is
then
what
reporting
sparks
it.
her to
Okay.
tell him
Okay.
the thing.
All right. But it's different. She says, we didn't make it. We weren't alone out there. She sees the antler queen in the flashback, right? It's which is okay, I'm gonna come back to that. Travis tries to wake her up. Paramedics are there, which
Yeah.
we saw a brief shot of earlier. So I think that was like a foreshadowing of this. Nat says in the flashback, just to clarify, I saw it, I felt it, we brought it back with us. And then in the present, Nat comes out of the hypnosis and she says there was some darkness out there with them or in them, and it still is. And that's what she was right about. She puts her head in Lottie's lap, and we see the younger version of Natalie, interestingly. And Lottie sees a shadow of the Antler Queen at this point. And I'm like, aren't you the fucking Antler Queen?
I thought that was the implication of the shadow.
Is that the idea that
Yeah.
like okay, it's just weird that like it in the context of the scene, it seems like it's implying that the Antler Queen is the evil spirit of the woods. That's like, that was like, but if it's in them, then maybe it's like the Antler Queen is a visualization of this evil spirit of the woods being in them. Like that's the stuff that it drove them to do, and it's haunting Lottie because that was her, being pushed so far, and like going back to the scene from the previous episode, like let this be enough. Like she was pushed to a point where she thought she had to do all that stuff, and like this is representing that still haunting her, I guess, is the idea. It's just interesting that they both see the Antler Queen when like Natalie knows that Lottie was the Antler Queen, right? Like, there's no way she doesn't know that, right? And Lottie also knows. It makes more sense for Lottie to see it, but I just think it's interesting that Natalie, like, she sees the Antler Queen, like, while doing this flashback with Lottie. I don't know. Anyway, it just struck me as a bit like it's creepy and it works, but I was just I was just trying to understand like what the underlying idea is here, it's sort of like what else is the visual way to convey the evil spirit of the woods, but it's just interesting they choose something that like literally happened and is literally embodied by a character that's just right there, you know? Like I don't know.
Yeah. It opened up a lot of questions for me. I mean, I think it's still too broad to really speculate. I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's always room for metaphor, etc.
Well,
But
yeah, as I
you
said
know,
earlier, I think this is at the very least definitely metaphor. Is it more than that is the question, but there's
yeah.
no question that it's metaphor, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, I think from a metaphor standpoint, that exchange where we see contemporary moment Nat visualized as teenage Nat laying her head on the lap of contemporary Lottie visualized as the Antler Queen might be pointing to Nat, as a teenager, finding herself in a situation where she at last has to turn to Lottie
Yeah.
for comfort.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
okay.
I
Sort of
don't
like
know.
regressing to that time
Yeah,
when she previously, had to lean on Lottie for some kind of
right.
support or leadership or whatever.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, we'll see.
yeah. No, that's
I'm
interesting.
very eager
It
for.
makes sense. It's tied to the past, but it also tells us that, this thing that Natalie said, like while strung out, like was like a key part of whatever led Travis to the spiral of, paranoia slash real haunting that led him to, basically put himself in a position where he died. I hesitate to say kill himself because I don't think he quite intended to kill himself, but he definitely was willing to risk killing himself because the you know like psychological terror that he was in about the thing from the woods, and that's what he was talking about, in that flashback from episode 2. It's I don't know what it wants. I got to find out what it wants, and I just got to ask it. And like it's this is the point where I'm like, God damn it, I should have thought of this. Like, as soon as we found out what happened to Travis and they didn't tell us what the note was about, I should have been like, isn't the obvious answer that if he wrote the note right before he went to do this crazy thing, the thing she was right about should be connected to the reason he's doing the crazy thing? you know it's so logical that I'm just like, why didn't I even speculate that, like, oh, maybe Natalie told him that the thing was back or the thing wanted something, or it just seems so reasonable that I'm amazed that that never occurred to me until this episode.
Well, it feels a lot, yeah, same. It feels like that thing in it where one of the kids as an adult, when he finds out that it is back, commits suicide.
Yes, 100%. I think, yeah, I think it is actually a good touch point for the way the story's working. I mean, it is also uh metaphor. In addition to, it's real in the story. There's no doubt. It's killing kids.
Yeah.
There's no question that it exists.
Yeah.
But it is also a metaphor for the horrible things that happen to them. And the horrible things that happen to them weren't just because of it. There are all kinds of things that
Right.
happened to them in their childhood that they, wanted to forget about as adults. And yeah, like the haunting like quality of having to like relive that or go back to that. Yeah, no, totally. That I think I'm certain that that's at least a partial influence on this story, because that was all about like it's later, they were younger in that story, but nonetheless that sort of childhood slash adolescence versus later adulthood, and how things change, how what happens to you as a kid influences you as an adult, that whole idea, your friend group and how that goes forward in your life. I mean, those ideas are all floating there. So it's hard for me to believe that that's not at least a partial influence on this. um Even though I literally never thought of that.
Well, there you
Though
go.
it seems obvious now, that seriously never occurred to me. There's a different story that I was thinking of reminded me of it, but not this one, strangely.
Interesting.
Anyway, I'll tell you about that later. Okay, I don't want to get too sidetracked, all right? Because we're almost done here. Okay, so any more about this or good to go?
No, I
All
mean,
right,
we'll see. I'm just
yeah,
waiting eagerly for what we will get to build on this.
I agree. I agree. I'm interested, and well, here we go. Misty presses the intercom button at the gate at Lottie's camp, and she tells the acolyte who comes to the gate that she wants to join. So I think Misty, in a way, like Misty is a great character to be involved in this, because she's someone who will ask questions about things and who will like think about things in a more logical way, I guess, a more analytical way, perhaps. So I feel like, if we got to throw, she's almost like the Saeed of this group. I mean, that's a weird
That is a really
comparison,
weird comparison.
but only in the sense that I feel like she's the most like my like evidence and like let's figure things out, like frame of mind of all the characters. Like I think the other characters are more willing to just like let things go unless they're affecting them personally. But she's all about inserting herself into other people's problems.
Yeah,
you
yes,
know
yes.
so it's just like, I feel like Ty's like, if you can make it go away, I don't care what it is or what it wants.
Yeah,
But I feel like she would be like, what is, like, what does it mean? Like, what is it actually trying to?
yeah.
So anyway, I feel like that's a good sign for this story that Misty is entering the picture here, and we'll see how it goes. Obviously, like, Natalie's not going to welcome her with open arms. I think we're all sure that's not going to happen. But it'll be interesting to see how Lottie reacts to Misty because I actually have no idea. There's been very little interaction. Like Lottie, I mean, Misty is shown to be a supporter of Lottie for the most part and like backs her up on stuff, but there's been not a ton of interaction between them in terms of Lottie expressing any sort of particular opinion about Misty. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. I might tune in next week. What about you?
I think I'm gonna. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to.
All right, so I'll just wrap it up here. We go back to the cabin. Ty and Shauna finally hear the others and make it back to the cabin. Inside, Akila asks Shauna if she's in labor, and she yells into the credits, implying that the answer is yes as they play Danzig's mother.
Yeah, it's subtle. It's subtle, but you caught it. Yeah. So I guess we're getting a baby soon.
It seems like we're at least going to get a delivery scene in the next episode.
He is gonna change everything.
Yeah, will he? He's a fucking baby, and you're only going to be out there for like another, what, like year at the most?
I mean,
like, like how much can he change everything?
I don't
And
know.
also, Laddie, how do you know how to sex babies? I'm just saying.
She just knows, okay?
How do you know? How
Her
do you
friend
know?
told her.
Yeah, I know, right? Y'all got friends out there. Why has everybody got friends?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that's clearly coming to a head. So I do feel like, now maybe the baby makes it out and lives for a while before the bad thing happens. I mean, it's not impossible.
Ugh, yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, the bad thing's coming. Will it be in the next episode or is it going to be 2 seasons from now? I really don't know. But that's something that I mean they will have to address because the flashback stories have been, well, I mean the present day stories have too, like it's just cutting back and forth between, very linear. So I don't think, I mean, it would be weird if they cut to like 2 months later in the next episode and either the baby's not there, no one's talking about it, or the baby is there and we just skip past that point, so I expect them to deal with it. We'll see.
They're gonna deal with it.
I think they should deal with it. This is the end of the episode.
This is the end of the
So we have
episode.
arrived at the conclusion for this week's
It's always special.
I don't know why it's special. Episode of Yellowjackets. Two truths and a lie. Obvious meaning for that. It was an enjoyable episode. I think definitely like a classic mid-season episode. Definitely, if serious events happen, it's not a filler episode by any means. But it seems like it's building up for things to come, and we'll all be there. Will you be there? I'll be there.
I'll be there. Creepy baby's gonna be there.
So yeah, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. I think just
Ready to sign off?
bring it on. Bring
All
on the
right.
next one.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring
Until
it on.
next time.
Buzz, buzz,
Buzz, buzz, buzz.